It's me. I'm here. Finally. The long wait is over. I'm Spike.
I'm Kel.
I'm Amanda. We only skipped a single week.
Welcome to the Geek Show, everyone. Welcome back to the Geek Show. We took the holidays off, but we're here again. We
We did
haven't left
not.
you.
We did not take the
Yeah,
holidays off.
actually,
We
y'all
streamed on
live
Christmas.
streamed on Christmas.
But the Geek Show
Yeah.
took the holidays off,
No, it
even if we
didn't.
didn't. Yes, it
No, because
did.
we did like the day before or the Thursday
Yeah.
before Christmas.
Oh, fine.
Oh.
And my
Anyway,
holidays aren't till Saturday. Thank you very much.
all right. Is that Orthodox holidays?
What? No, I'm just.
No, that's when Amanda will be out of town.
No, I convinced
holidays.
I
Oh,
convinced my
okay.
family to postpone Christmas till after New Year's because I said, "Hey, it's gonna be hell at the airport." And
Yeah.
I mean, technically, January 7th is supposedly when the Wiseman showed up. So you're having
me,
Wiseman
I'm the wise man.
Christmas.
Here I come.
Yes, exactly. You're having a Wiseman Christmas. That is why it's the 12 days of Christmas, FYI. That's how long it took the Wiseman to get there.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
and
super glad
I thought it. Yeah, I thought it was an Orthodox Christianity thing because I know that Orthodox
Oh, no,
Christianity
my
celebrates a
family,
different holiday season.
the family I speak to is not religious.
Okay.
No, my mom's like kind of agnostic, kind of believes in some spiritual stuff, but that's as far as it goes. Like, she believes that a ghost could knock her dinnerware over, but she doesn't believe, like, in heaven or hell, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma
get
I mean,
believes
that does make sense because if you don't believe in heaven or hell, but you believe in spirits or whatever, then where are the spirits going to go? They got to hang out.
Yeah,
They
she's
gotta
more.
hang out.
You can convince her that psychics are real. You cannot convince her that angels. That makes sense.
Huh. That's interesting. I understand where that's coming from. I think a lot of people have that kind of like belief set. Like they kind of see all the holes that have been poked in organized religion and it's all they can see now, so they can't really take that seriously. But frankly, I think sort of modern
It's
society kind of
also
encourages this sort of "ooh, who can say woo" with the paranormal.
I know that like the reason why psychics gets lumped in with sci-fi rather than fantasy a lot of the time is just because one guy in charge of a sci-fi magazine
Mhm.
was thought that theoretically human beings could eventually get psychic powers and he did not think like so
Well,
that's why he put it under science fiction is because he
here's the
thought
thing.
that was possible rather than fantasy stuff.
I mean, fair argument for a mid-century type guy.
Well, also, I could
Yeah.
argue that you could make a a case in a sci-fi story for developing psychic stuff. You know, maybe it's a latent. You know what? It's fiction, obviously, but like lots of shit in sci-fi is like, yeah, this can't happen. Like
Yeah.
you have gone to great lengths to make this happen, but it can't.
I think that's also a thing that like that was a thing that struck me um when I watched X-Files for the first time. Like cuz I watched it for the first time a few years ago. Um Mulder is like your mom, Amanda. He believes in everything except for angels. Like so if you're like a vampire did this, he'd be like, tell me more. But if you said
Okay,
Jesus
my mom
showed
does
up
not
and
believe
said,
in
hey,
vampires. She just likes them.
Mhm.
like psychics, like and basically as soon as you say angels, that's where he's like, I'm out.
I see. I
Mhm.
see.
Yeah.
And Scully is the one who's like, well, you don't know religion like phenomenon has happened, blah blah blah, and so they switch roles whenever it's a religious themed episode.
Oh god.
Scully believes in angels, but Mulder doesn't. But
Yeah.
Mulder believes in everything else.
It was
Um,
really
Mm,
funny when I was going through my religious phase, and my mom was very like, okay.
yeah. It's kinda
I would come back from my dad's house, like, what did you do? Oh, I was on Awana, we did a mission, and blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, you do this now? Okay. Like,
yeah.
like very tense and supportive, like, all right, that's weird.
Yeah. Probably because she
uh,
understands that, like, trying to stop it would just make you cling to it harder.
Well, also, They were all. It was a weird time. I've mentioned before that my family was going through like a 6-year custody battle that was like on and on and off and on and off and on. And like
Mhm.
one of the ways they tried to one up. So my dad tried to one up my mom basically by being like, well, she doesn't go to church. If we start going to church, it'll make us look better. And it did make him look better. They actually use it as an argument. Um,
Mhm.
that was just the shitty place we lived. So he because he took us to church. But then my mom like reluctantly also tried to take us to church, but
And it didn't go well.
it did not go well. We went to a single church and she never went back again. Because she was
No.
like shopping around. It was one of the ones where I forget which denomination. My dad ended up going to like a Baptist and then a Methodist church, but my mom, I don't know which church my mom went to, but they rolled up. They said, "Hey, can you send all the kids?" It was our first day there. My mom's there with her 3 kids, and they say the wasn't the pastor. I don't think that's what they had. But anyway, the guy who's in charge says, "Hey, send all the kids up to the front." My mom's like, "Oh, it's time for kid stuff. Okay, cool." So they send all the kids up to the front, and they kneel. And the guy starts talking about how like it doesn't matter that you're a child; you're still gonna go to hell.
And then your mom was like, nope,
Oh,
nope,
oh
nope, nope.
no, we're not coming back here
Yeah,
ever again.
yeah,
Oh my
nope, nope,
god.
nope.
Like my mom has her flaws, but
Uh,
like she was just
Yeah.
like, "Oh, no, 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 goodbye, never again. I tried it once. I will not try it again."
Yeah, I did not grow up I did not, excuse me, get raised in a church-going family. So this is all very novel conceptually to me. The one time I went to church as a child, it was because literally a friend of my father's was in town and my dad decided we were going to church that week. And it was like a church we had never been to before and we never went back.
uh,
I
I went to church every Sunday until I was a teenager.
Mhm.
Because that I was raised Catholic, and that's what we did.
And
I
then
was not raised religiously, but like when my dad did the whole okay, we're religious now because it makes us look really good. I kind of got sucked into it because it was for several reasons. One, I was really lonely, and at the end of the day, like Sunday school and church is like it's really social.
mhm.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a easy way to be social, especially when like it's like everyone's kind of, especially like when you're new, everyone's really nice to you, and when you're like you're a lonely
Yeah.
teenager, you don't realize there's a reason everyone's nice to you. It's not because they like you, but I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
You just think
I
everyone's
have
really
a
nice and inviting, and then I got because I was also a little scholastic ass nerd.
uh-huh.
That was just another thing for me to study and get good at in tests because I would like do Bible study and ace the test and be like, yeah, look,
Yeah.
another way for me to be a fucking nerd. And then I joined the Awanas, and the Awanas kind of was fun at first because it's like missionary Bible studying Girl Scouts and Cub Scouts. So it's
Yeah.
neat because you got the little badge system and you get to, or, you know, you earn your way up a little ladder. But then it made me sad because I was like, because then you learn more of the Bible and you're like, oh, I don't like this. And then I got real hyped, and then I like, and we were at a Baptist church, and the way that works, you do not get baptized unless you like commit to it. It's like a intentional thing. You go, I would like to commit myself to God and have a relationship, blah 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 blah. Like it's a big process. There's a big lead up to it. You can't just like do it.
Do it.
And
Yeah.
then I
Mhm.
did it. I did the whole fucking shebang, and the whole thing depressed me so much. I was just like, oh,
Uh-huh.
I don't like this. I don't know. Not to get too personal, but I had a sort of, I had convinced myself, like, well, I'm doing all this Bible study, and I've yet the voice of God. Fucking what?
Oh.
That's where I was as a teenager. I was like, not fucking once have I heard the voice of God, and I keep being told, oh, it'll happen. It'll happen. You
Mhm.
know, I was like, okay, I've been very fucking good about this. And then the baptism happened. I was like, well, that everyone says that's it. That's the final fucking piece. That's the way it was being described to me. And I was like, got
Mhm.
baptized. Most of my family didn't show, not
Mhm.
even the religious ones, which was like, okay,
Wow.
thanks, assholes. And it was supposed to be a
Su
big deal. So
surprising.
yeah, so only people there were like strange, like the adults. It wasn't even like the Sunday school kids I knew. It was like mostly adults. I'm like, I don't know these fucking people. I just felt
Mhm.
so bad. I just went home and go, I guess there's no God, I guess. It was just
Right
really
after the
weird. Yeah,
baptism,
I
right
just kind of
after
sat on my bed and I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore.
That's actually kinda
I
interesting because it makes me think of, like, a lot of stories I hear from people who fall into not just religious groups like Awanas, but, like, cults and homeopathic medicine. Like, the thing that people are on the lookout for is community
Yeah.
and family and just someone to sit with them and listen to them when they talk.
Like,
And they'll just do whatever's required to get
I
that.
think I was just lonely, and the idea of a relationship with God or Jesus was like really
Mhm.
attractive because like I didn't have a
Yeah.
relationship with my like parents because they sucked,
Uh-huh.
and my mom at
Uh-huh.
the time was like, this is a point where I did not see my mom anymore for
Uh-huh.
various reasons. Um, so I was just really fucking lonely, and the idea of like a relationship with this like greater being that loves you unconditionally if you make that commitment was like, I'm like, yeah, I can commit. Fuck yeah, I can
Aw.
commit. And it made me really
Yeah.
bummed out, you know. So I was
uh
like, cool. Not even Jesus wants to be my dad. Well, fuck you.
Oh, wow.
That's just
Oh,
how I felt at
wow.
the time. I got really bummed
Holy
out.
shit. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah,
I love it phrased like that. Like, not Jesus wants to be my dad.
not even
I was
Jesus
just a
wants to
sad
be
little
my dad.
teenager. I was
Oh, it sounds
depressed.
that
I
way.
had
Oh my
depression, and the
god.
root, and Jesus not wanting to be my dad
uh
was the tipping point.
Oh
so
god.
yeah, we had to go to church every Sunday. Um what's very funny is, so I was a guest on a podcast where I know people who do a Xena episode by episode podcast. And I came on as a guest as someone who had
No, the
not seen
chat.
Xena before. And the episode, Xena oddly has a lot of episodes where she interacts with Bible stories. So that's
Hmm.
how we got on the topic of religion. And one of the hosts was, I think, Baptist, and then the other was Jewish. So
Mhm.
I had to explain Catholicism to them. Um, and it was very funny getting asked questions about Catholicism that, like, just people having completely the wrong idea, because I mentioned, like, I was going over the sacraments that Catholics have, one of which being the first communion, which you have when you're like 8 or 10. And the one of the hosts was like, is that when the little girls dress up like brides because they're marrying Jesus? And I'm like, no, because little boys have to make the first communion too. So while the
I
outfits
like
that
that.
we
I like
wear
that
are white,
interpretation.
it's like, while the outfits we had to wear while making it were white dresses, that was not the implication. They were just pretty white dresses. Like, because the only one who
Yeah,
has a
it's the
sacrament
little
that is
baby or
supposed to be
kid
marrying
version of
Jesus
Sunday
is a
best.
nun making her, like, yeah, it's the only time, any only sacrament that is supposed to be a metaphor for marrying Jesus is a nun taking her vows. Um, no
Nunnery.
little girls are marrying Jesus. And then had to explain that a confirmation is like a bar mitzvah, but for Catholics.
Mm.
Um, and
I got very
I
confused because, like I said, my family's like not religious. So when I did get religious, I actually got two like confirmation dolls.
Huh.
They were like
Like
little porcelain
because
dolls in the outfit with like, and they came with these little keepsake boxes. And I was just like,
yeah,
oh,
and
I'm not
like you,
doing that, but thank you. I appreciate the effort. Because my family was like,
yeah,
even my extended family, except for like one who actually was a pastor, was just like, we don't understand how religion works. Please take this doll.
yeah.
oh.
Cause confirmation is just you're an adult in the eyes of the church or whatever. So um you do that at like 15 or 16, depending on your church. Uh,
Does anyone
but
here remember, I'm gonna call it a webcomic, but it quite certainly is not a webcomic, it predates that by literal decades. Does anyone here remember a webcomic called Theophilus?
The what?
no.
Oh my
You have to say
god.
that word
Okay,
again. I didn't catch the word.
it's spelled like Theophilus, it's called Theophilus.
Theophilus. Okay, okay, I get it.
Theo, yeah, Theophilus.
Like
It
theology.
yeah,
Theophilus.
Yes, yes. It
Okay.
was this comic strip that I found online ages and ages ago. If anyone wants to, like, Google Theophilus, you'll know you found it when you see a comic strip where all the characters are just heads on pairs of legs. Then you found it, you're there. And
And that sounds
Theophilus
like a
was
Pop Team Epic.
yeah, I mean, I could see Pop Team Epic doing something about this if it was better if it was better known. It was by this dude named Bob West, and he started it in the '60s, but then began uploading it, obviously, at the turn of the century, and it was this comic strip that started out being fiction, but then definitely became autobio, whether he was ready to admit to it or not. And it was about a little religious being on legs that was kind of in constant drama with the church he chose to attend because the church was becoming very worldly and God was speaking to Theophilus directly and telling Theophilus, the church is worldly and it sucks and it's doing everything wrong and I can prove it and here are the Bible passages to prove it. You should definitely not listen to your church leaders. Also, Theophilus and his wife, like, just straight up didn't like each other, and that was, like, a recurring theme in the strip, that his wife worked all day at home, cleaning and cooking and taking care of the kids, and then crying by herself in the kitchen, while Theophilus ignored his wife and children, and also Theophilus really liked pornography and felt super bad about it, and that was a recurring theme. And keep in mind, these are like little tiny heads. And so he would go into like stores and buy magazines, and and Theophilus jerking off was depicted
You
as the
saying
little.
worldly? Were these Jehovah's Witnesses specifically?
No, these are like
Okay.
how he turns it. He
Okay.
was like, I don't even know what this dude
The
was.
no
And
world.
I assume by worldly it meant non-white people were being allowed in the church or
I know. I
whatever.
just
No,
worldliness
yeah.
is like
No, honestly, if it was
concept.
racism, it'd be significantly less insane. It was not racism his issues were. His issues were that there were events being held in the church where food was being served. That was one of them. Another issue was when communion was being offered, there was an option to take grape juice instead of wine. That was the second one. And there were more than that, but this has not even begun to be insane. Like I said, when he was like jerking off, when the little head guy was jerking off, it was always depicted as this like fire engine red from top to bottom panel, except for the outline of Theophilus looking at a magazine and then like cartoon heat waves above his head. And that is how a little head with legs jerks off, apparently. And then he would hate himself and cry and feel bad about his wife, who already feels neglected. But this strip began to get profoundly insane when it got to the part where Theophilus, who is clearly, the author, at some point in the past, he had fallen off of a ladder and hurt himself in such a way that he could no longer poop without having an enema first. That is as detailed as things got. And he eventually prayed to God and other people who kind of think like him and think like the church is corrupt. They would have little Bible studies together and they'd pray to God and they would believe in the manifestation of godly healing from believers laying hands. That's another thing the church told him wasn't real, which is why he didn't like the church anymore, that the whole laying hand things wasn't real. But he knew it was. So he had his little meeting with his believers and they all laid hands on him and he immediately ran to the bathroom and shit himself. And from that moment forward, God started speaking to him through his bowel movements. This was the best
I've been
webcomic
there.
I have ever read. And I'm desperately searching for it. I can't seem to find it. And that's a fucking crime. I can't find it.
I was to say, it sounded
I
like
didn't.
Jehovah's Witness stuff, but now but the way you describe it, it sounds like someone like a Methodist church who is like the singular, naturally occurring Jehovah's Witness among them.
Bob West was old when it started. Just so you know, this comic, I'm looking at it up right now. This comic started in 1966 as mailings, like, physical newsletter mailings. And he uploaded the old stuff, to the internet, and it was kind of like not super great done. It looks a little jagged, it's a little aliased. But
That's pretty common for early baby's first web
It's-
comic.
it's a fucking crime. I can't find any of it and my heart is breaking because I think since he was kind of like an older guy and this was never like in the scene, I think it's it might be fucking lost media, y'all, and my heart is starting to feel
Oh,
bad
time for
because
you to make a YouTube channel.
I know, dedicated to digging up Theophilus because it's so. Oh shit! I found some comics. Okay. Oh no,
I
no.
don't I
Oh.
don't want to see this comic. I aggressively don't want to see this comic and would like you to stop talking about it.
Why? It's amazing. Oh god. The poop arc is the best one. But we can change topics. It's okay. It's just if
Yeah.
anyone is curious, Theophilus. It's easy to find.
Let's talk about a good comic. A Silent Voice is a great manga. And I know Spike, you've recently watched the movie.
Mhm.
It's a good shit.
I
Um,
yeah,
you sh-
I I have watched it and I should have watched it earlier and you've been recommending it to me for years and I did not sort of take you up on that because I'm always so busy and for me, like I
I
say,
hate that
watching
Kell's
stuff I have to
depriving
actually
me of the comic the weird religion comic I want to hear about. How dare you?
By
To
the way,
talk about anime.
Nero in chat is saying that theophilus.org is archived on the Wayback Machine. And I've had a bit of a misremembering. The obviously autobiographical comic also has another character who is just like the thinnest, gauziest, flimsiest veil of, oh, this isn't me. And it's a character named Sketch, who is another little head on legs, who looks slightly different from Theophilus and occasionally talks to Theophilus, but is a cartoonist who is not being sufficiently appreciated by his church. So yeah, go ahead. And if this sounds even remotely interesting to you, it's on the Wayback Machine and it's theophilus.org is the site. And then now, Kel, we can go back to talking about A Silent Voice.
it's real good shit. And the reason why I've been recommending the manga to you rather than the movie is because the manga like really digs deep into shit. Like you're getting like the Cliff Notes version in the movie. And so the manga is just there's some shit in there that's like brutal. But also like the manga tries to examine um how much the bullying is the teacher's fault.
Yeah, that is
At
interesting.
the
I did look up the manga and actually read some of it after you told me I should check it out.
Yeah, because the thing I like about the manga is it makes it clear that because the whole first volume of the manga is the bullying as it happens.
Yeah.
And then like the rest of it is examining how everyone remembers it. And so the thing is like you have the teacher complaining about the deaf girl while his back is turned to her.
Uh-huh.
Like, Jesus fucking Christ, you're slowing down the whole class. But she doesn't realize the teacher is saying that because she's deaf and therefore can't lip read what he's saying. But
Right.
all the hearing kids heard him say that. So, like, that's partly why the shitty main character thought it was okay to bully her. Because even the teacher was like, oh, this deaf kid sure is a pain in the ass. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
and
so, yeah.
for folks who aren't aware, because we never actually explained
Yeah.
the actual manga slash
That's me. I'm
anime.
folks who's not aware.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of the plot. The Silent Voice is about a boy who is in a class, a standard middle school Japanese class, and
He's 8.
He's
He's
eight.
8. So
So
he's not even a middle schooler yet.
so he's in grade school,
Um,
and there's a new classmate who shows up who is deaf, and while she can read, she communicates via a notebook that she has people write in. And she shows up, and initially people kind of make sort of a sort of effort to involve her, but
I feel like she's treated as like they like her because she's something new and
yeah,
exciting in the
she's a
class.
novelty
So
initially. She's initially
yeah.
a novelty, but then the accommodations that they are being asked to make for her, they eventually start ignoring and then eventually being straight up offended by. And the accommodations are, writing things down for her, talking to her via the notebook, the teacher having to
Or
turn away from the chalkboard when he speaks so she can lip read him, things like that. And
Yeah.
It eventually gets to the point where straight up the whole class, including the teacher in a very subtle kind of way, are expressing their irritation that they need to accommodate this disabled girl. And it kind of comes to a head when a woman from the Japanese Association for the Deaf shows up and starts suggesting the class should learn sign language. And like, no one wants to learn sign language. They're like, no, we refuse to do that. Except for one student who was eventually like bullied completely out of the school for even trying to communicate with this girl on a sign language level.
And the whole time, the main character
Is
is
involved in the bullying.
well, he is actively bullying her, whereas the
Yeah,
rest of the kids are being like passive aggressively hostile. He
yeah,
is like every so often he makes a loud noise behind her head
yeah,
um to see if she can hear it, and his bullying ends with him he takes her hearing aid and then like chucks it in a pond.
yeah.
um
It's more than that, though. He takes
yeah,
a series of her hearing aids and does things like throw them out the window, throw them in a pond, step on them, throw them in the garbage.
well, so he
And
only breaks one because that's what he has to pay for. So while he tosses it away from her several times, he only breaks one because then the principal's like, okay, well, the if we don't know who's responsible for breaking the hearing aid, the whole class has to pitch in to
okay,
replace the hearing aid.
yeah, what Kel's
um
talking about now is one day one day when the kids come into class, the principal is there and the deaf girl is not. And the principal says, "We've gotten reports that the student has had 7 hearing aids go missing in the last 4 or 5 months. And obviously we know y'all are doing it. We just don't know exactly who. Whoever is doing it, stand up now or the entire class will be penalized." And what happens before the guy we're talking about can stand up or anyone can even implicate him is the teacher yells, "Ishida, get up. We all know it was you." Because he was far from the only person bullying, but
but he
he
was the most obvious.
he was the most sort of out there about it, like turning the hose on her when they're gardening together, things like that, things that are very extroverted and obvious. Well, other people were mostly just behind her back going, "God, she's so annoying. I wish she'd die." Stuff like that. But she can't hear that. So, and Ishida stands up and he kind of tries to flaccidly defend himself, like, "You all did it. How can you fucking sit here and say it was just me? You all did it."
And
And
here's
that's
the
when,
other thing is, while he's being the extrovert bully,
mhm.
she is coming in this whole time the deaf girl is coming into class early and washing her desk because nasty messages are written on it.
Well,
um
that's not quite right though.
that's
That
he gets nasty messages later, like that's
well,
why
no,
he assumes that she's cleaning her own desk first.
well, in from what I've read and what I saw in the anime, basically what happens is that he gets called out by his own teacher. He says, "I wasn't just me, it was the whole class doing it." And the girl who, by the way, stood up and said, "I don't I the class representative, like the goody two shoes." She's all like
Hmm.
starts straight up crying going, "I can't believe you would accuse me of such a thing," when she was like straight up in on it. We saw her do it. And
Well, she laughed, so we don't ever
mhm.
see her do anything, but she does laugh whenever he does it. So
Yeah, and then there's
um
another girl in class who is all like, "Actually, you were the one who was super duper mean about it, and I think we all saw you be that way." And so kind of the whole class scapegoats Ishida, just this one guy, even though they were all kind of in on making sure the deaf girl did not feel welcome in any way. And because of this, Ishida's mother, who by the way is not wealthy, she's a hairdresser and she lives above the shop with her family, she has to go to the bank, withdraw a bunch of money, what is characterized by as her life savings, give them to the mother of the deaf girl to replace the hearing aids. And she's doing it with a lot of deep bows, like, I'm sorry, I know my kid is shit." And she cries because she has just been paupered by her shittily behaved son because he is
mhm.
on a disabled girl. So it's like, wow, what a shitty thing to learn about your kid. So obviously she cries about it.
But
And for the
also, so yeah, so then because he's been singled out, the whole class that was bullying the deaf girl now starts to also bully him. So where I mentioned the deaf girl has been washing her desk, um, she tries to reach out and be friendly to the main character while he is also being bullied, and he lashes out at her and blames her for him getting bullied. And then she drops out of school, and he finds out that she wasn't just washing her desk, she was also washing messages off his desk, because when he comes into school the next day after she dropped out, he basically "kill yourself" has been written on his desk over and over.
See, what I
And
saw was different. What I saw was he came to school early one day specifically because he wanted to find out who has been stealing his shoes. Because in Japanese
Mhm,
schools, you take off your outside shoes and you put on some indoor slippers before you go to class, and his shoes kept being stolen. And he was coming in early, and when he walked by the classroom, he saw her in there scrubbing a desk. And keep in mind,
mhm,
they sit very close together. She sits right in front of him. And he went, "Oh my God, what's that loser doing? Just scrubbing notes off of her desk." And the whole thing goes through where he finds out it was his ex, air quotes, best friends who have been throwing his shoes in the garbage every day, and they kick his ass. And while he's lying there, ass kicked, bleeding from the nose, kind of contemplating his current lot in life, the deaf girl shows up and tries to help him. And like Kel said, he lashes out at her, and she surprises him by actually talking for the first time, because up until now she has never actually spoken.
mhm,
And she says, "I'm doing the best I can," while they're fighting. But
mhm.
of course, because this is, fiction, the timing is perfect that everyone is coming into school now to start the day, including the teachers, and they see this kid, Ishida, who they've been sort of ostracizing for picking on the deaf girl, in a straight up knock down, drag out with said deaf girl. And after that, that's when the deaf girl transfers away. And when Ishida comes in from then on, every single day until graduation, there are shitty notes written on his desk, not on the deaf girl's desk, on his desk. And he says, "Oh, I thought she'd been washing her desk. Actually, she'd been coming early every day to wash mine."
But anyway, so he is getting told to kill himself repeatedly
Every
every
day.
day, for the rest of his elementary school life.
And he's characterized
And
as, "Oh, don't talk to Ishida," to all the new kids, because that's Ishida. He's like a
and
total psycho.
then
He
when
made a
he
deaf
goes
girl
to
transfer out. He bullied a disabled girl. He made her transfer out. It was so bad.
yeah, and that so he's bullied all through elementary school, then he goes to middle school, and that's when it's like, "Don't talk to so and so. I
Yeah.
heard that he bad news." So he has no friends through elementary school or middle school, and a neat thing in the manga is, since he stops empathizing with people because he is so isolated, he's seeing everyone's faces as X's, um, until he gets to know them throughout the comic.
Yeah.
And so
He has no
the
friends.
and the reason why I say he's 8 is because it's 10 years later is when the main story takes place.
Mhm.
Because he's in his last year of high school.
Yeah.
So then he basically goes through a bunch of errands the first time we see him as an adult. And the last errand he has to do on his list that day is go he has found out where the deaf girl is now, and he tries to apologize to her in sign language for bullying her as a child. Um, and that is where the first volume ends. And then the second volume picks up, and you learn he was doing those errands because he was planning on killing himself. And that was the last thing he was going to do before killing himself.
Yeah, he
Uh,
was socially isolated for 10 years, had no friends for 10 years. If anyone didn't know him, they were very quickly informed, "Oh, that's the fucking psycho that bullied the disabled girl into transferring. You don't wanna talk to him." So,
or
no
they
one
don't
knew
even
his.
give that many details because in high school, no one actually like people. Not everyone has connected those dots.
Yeah, but people are
He's
shown
just
coming
labeled
up.
as
Yeah.
a troublemaker and a weirdo.
Yeah, people are shown coming up to him going, "Hey man, I know we don't really know each other, but I heard this story about you. Is it true?" And so like that's the only human interaction he has throughout his entire school career, which is why he starts visualizing people as like non-entities, as like just X's on their face, as
Yeah.
not even
And
people.
so
And his
the rest of the series is kind of an examination of forgiveness in a situation like that, because it's obvious, because deaf girl wants to hang out with him more.
Mhm.
um it is implied later that she realized he was planning to kill himself, so part of why she was like, we need to meet up next week,
Mhm.
was to try to stop him without like um saying, hey, don't kill yourself directly, because she was worried that would backfire.
Yeah. His big
So
yeah, his big
but
list of things
so
to do was it
yeah.
basically imagine a calendar, but all the days after, like, the 17th are ripped off, they're gone, and we are
Mhm.
treated in the beginning of the anime of a montage of him quitting his part-time job, selling everything he owns to a junk man, and giving his mother an envelope with all the money that she had to give to the deaf girl's mother to pay for the broken hearing aid, with a note on it going, "Here's all the money I owed you." And so he has all his air quotes loose ends tied up except for finding this girl and apologizing to her.
Mhm. And so yeah, so you're examining how he wants forgiveness for being bullied, but doesn't know if he deserves it. And
Yeah.
then but because she did this act of kindness for him, he decides to stop another kid from being bullied. And this is why I think people have stopped saying what happened he did as in high school, because
Mhm.
the kid that he stops from being bullied just knows him as kind of a weird loner, but doesn't know what he did in the past.
Yeah.
So you then have someone who just met him who's like, I don't care what you did in the past. You're a good person now, and that's what matters because you stopped me from being bullied. But then Deaf Girl's sister is like, no, fuck you. I saw the pain you caused to someone I care about. You
Mhm.
can go jump off a cliff for all I care.
Yeah.
And then you have the girl who was the class rep and laughed at the bullying. She's in the same high school as them, and it's he it comes up that she laughed, and she claims I didn't laugh at all, and like so she feels no responsibility, but she did participate at least a little bit by laughing. And so kind of wondering how much culpability does she have in this situation. um and then there's another guy who also didn't know what happened, but he is like, I hate bullies, I'm gonna beat the fuck out of every bully or anyone who's ever done something like that. So the main character starts to be anxious around this guy that he's become friends with, because oh no, what if he finds out about the horrible things I did as a kid? um and then you have, while all this is going on, one of the people that bullied him sees that he is trying to get forgiveness from this deaf girl, and she is like, oh, well, you should forgive me for bullying you. And he's like, I don't want to because you were awful to me. And she goes, that's really hypocritical of you to assume that you can have forgiveness, but not offer it in return. So he's also kind of juggling with that. Like I said, there's an examination of how complicit the teacher was in all the bullying, because the teacher was like, oh, this disabled girl is such a pain, where the hearing kids could hear. Um, and I just like that it really digs into like the details of everyone in the situation.
Yeah, no one is completely innocent in this situation. At the very, very least, they kind of let it happen. And that's kind of the teacher's angle, where there are scenes in the manga where the teacher takes Ishida, the boy, aside from time to time, and he's all like, "Can you just not?" But that's as far as it goes. Like, he sees everyone else
And
doing it,
then
but does nothing for
uh,
them, but he kinda has to say something to Ishida because Ishida is so in your face about it.
and then what's also the kid that I said that was like, I hates bullying. Um you There's a part where the they meet with the elementary school teacher, um and the elementary school teacher like is like, Man, Ashita, you sure were a piece of shit as a child. But looks like you straightened your act out. But sure was a pain having that disabled girl in our class. Like something the teacher says, and then the uh guy who's anti-bullying is like, I'm sorry, what the fuck? You're an adult. Like what, and you're responsible for these children and you just let all this horrible shit happen and didn't like do anything to stop it? What the fuck is wrong with you? And the teacher like dismisses him as being a troublemaker for like being friends with the guy, but also like for yelling at him. And so I was glad like someone called the teacher on being a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good movie and a really good manga, and I actually think it's
mhm,
worth both watching it and reading it. Like, if you watch the movie and you like it, I think you should read the manga, which has been my experience. And it does,
mhm,
because text has more time. A page has more time to kind of dwell on
yeah.
everyone's motivations and attitudes and the subtleties of their interactions. And I really enjoyed that. And Sane in chat is saying, I think Ueno is one of my most disliked characters in media because of the hospital scene. And if I'm not mistaken,
Um,
Ueno is one of the girls who was a bully, not just towards the deaf girl, but also started bullying Ichida really badly after
mhm.
he kind of became the class whipping boy. And she is the one who asked for forgiveness for her
Yeah,
bullying.
she's the one who's like, "You're such a hypocrite because you won't forgive me."
Yeah. And she
Um,
also very much does not like the deaf girl because for some reason she blames the deaf girl for everything. Literally everything that went down for Ashita being basically tarred and feathered, for Ashita becoming a social outcast because she liked hanging out with Ashita. But of course she can't now because she'll be hanging out with the bully. So she couldn't. So she just went along with everybody else and bullied him. And she just literally there's a whole scene where she like takes the deaf girl aside and says, just so you know, I really fucking hate you, and so does everyone else.
yeah. And so then there's a thing that I thought was really cool in the manga is the whole last volume is from the deaf girl's POV. And what's neat is so they lettered it like normal, but then they cut the top halves of every sentence off. Because she's not completely deaf, so she knows that people are speaking to her. But so it's supposed to be like you trying to figure out what other people are saying, like to show how much work she has to put in to understand what people are saying. Um, they like cut the top half of the letters off of every sentence.
Mhm.
Um, and then what I also think is neat is and this is a part that is completely cut from the movie, is so this whole time the series is about the guy who can hear that bullied deaf girl, and like you don't really get that much into what is the deaf girl thinking in all of this. And it kind of makes the point that when it's from her point of view, that even though he was being nicer to her, he was still throughout this series not 100% treating her like a person or considering her point of view. Like he was more wrapped up in his forgiveness mission and was sort of steamrolling a little over her feelings a little bit, even though she did like hanging out with him and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so it digs into like um he only gets forgiveness because she is willing to forgive him. Like that's for all his like, oh, but should I be forgiven, like angst, it's really not up to him, it's up to her. um
Yeah.
and I think that that is a good thing because it would be easy to just accidentally leave out her point of view and
Mhm.
copy um the same mistake of like, here is this handicapped person that we are going to put on a pedestal.
Mhm.
rather than treat like a fully formed human being.
How you doing there,
Um,
Amanda?
I'm drawing.
anyway, also Spike, if you want more anime to watch, um the manga artist has a current manga going on called To Your Eternity, and that also has an anime out. And that's also very good.
What's
That
that
is
one about?
about It's about an immortal shapeshifter that is learning about being alive through copying other living things. Clearly, empathy is an interest of this manga creator because it's stuff like the first page of the manga is like it was a rock for 10 years until a wolf came over and died near it. And then it turned into a wolf, but it copied the injury that killed the wolf, and that was the first time it experienced pain. It copied the injury because it didn't realize that the injury wasn't supposed to be there. Um, and so you have stuff like it figures out that it needs to eat because it quote unquote starved to death multiple times, and like
Huh.
um, so it's experiencing the world to be able to relate to living things, and it's very interesting that way.
Oh, that does sound interesting. What's it called again?
To Your Eternity.
Yeah. I got a little uptight when you started talking about, see, it's just about this immortal shape-shifting being. I'm like, fuck. Because I'm currently doing a sort of incidental when I get around to it comic about an immortal being that he doesn't change into a whole bunch
I
of
mean,
shapes,
it's
but
not a new concept.
no, it's not.
Yeah,
But you're always afraid when you like do something that
Nope,
someone's going to be all like, "This is just a
never.
ripoff of
it's
XYZ."
okay. For most of the anime, he's a hot boy. I'm sure that you're not drawing him as a hot anime boy. Um,
God, no. God,
yeah,
that is
knowing
so
you,
not my
Spike,
vibe.
your immortal being is not an anime hot boy, because he's just copying what's in front of him. So he copies the wolf, and then he copies like a boy that he runs into, um and takes care of him while he's a wolf, thinking that he's like a dog, and so on and so forth. Like he
Yeah.
copies a little girl, an old lady, um bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I'll probably have to check that out if there's an anime for that too. Is that on like what, Crunchyroll or Netflix or
I watched it on HBO, but it is also on Crunchyroll.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's God, there's so many fucking streaming platforms now. It's so fucking difficult to like
Yeah, it's on multiple stuff. I think like HBO had like an exclusive for like the first year, but now it's on Crunchyroll. So
Okay. Yeah, I subscribe to Crunchyroll, but don't watch it nearly as much as I probably should. I don't think I'm getting my money's worth there, but I still like every once in a while watch into something watch something like a whole season straight. And I'm like, okay, I can't cancel my subscription because I found a lot of things I like.
yeah, but it's good shit. And I'm definitely like that. The manga author of it is like on a list of like keep an eye out for anything that she works on, because it's gonna at least be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely something I'm going to have to do because I this is the like kind of the first time hearing of this author, but they sound very extremely my jam.
Yeah. I just love that they're like really want to dig into like the details of stuff. Like they don't want to skim over anything. They want to like really like dig into this theme and talk about it for a long time.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh god. Oh, I need to actually cancel a lot of my subscriptions, come to think of it though.
I also watched. I finally got around to watching Woke, the Keith Knight show.
Yeah, Keith, everybody go watch Woke. That's on Hulu. I canceled my Hulu, but not because of Keith.
Yeah. It's good. It's about the main character is a thinly veiled Keith self-insert, like
Uh-huh.
to the extent where his name is Keith, but they spell it differently.
Uh-huh.
Um, and kind of what is his responsibility as a black cartoonist to talk about black issues is basically the crux
Oh.
of woke.
Ooh, boy. Oh, boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh, I could go on for a while about that and just
Yeah, so
make
that's
every
basically
enemy on earth.
because basically in the first episode he is tackled by the police because they thought that he was a mugger. And after that, he starts to see like little cartoon avatars telling him like to just be like fuck the man. Like they're trying to encourage him to rebel more. Um, and but at the same time, the comic strip he's doing for the newspaper is very like what would be in a newspaper. Um, and so does he keep doing that because that is successful, or does he want to veer into making stuff that is more about his experience
Uh-huh.
in a racist society?
Yeah. I can absolutely get that because obviously I experience racism as well. Like I
What?
can't not
Yeah.
experience racism. Yeah, shocking, I know. But at the same time, I've always felt a degree of resentment that so much that was expected of my output was like it has to be about air quotes black issues. I personally think
Hmm.
racism is a white person problem for various reasons, but it's a thing that I've always resented because I, in general, resent being told what to do. And I
Yeah.
have had people tell me to my face, "You should be using your talents," and I quote, because this is a common refrain, and multiple people have said it, "to uplift the Black community." And it's like, no, I want to draw fucking porn. If you want comics that uplift the Black community, I encourage you to learn to draw.
I mean, in
And I
your
encourage
own
you to
way, you kind of are by just
just,
living your best life.
yeah,
Very,
I kind
very,
of
very, very openly and publicly.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those things where representation does matter, and I'm not like Lieutenant Uhura, and I'm not a character in fiction, but I am a visible Black woman who is making comics and enjoying making comics and making a living from making comics, and that is representation as well. And in my opinion, that should be enough. But I it's just a thing like I don't
Yeah.
wanna fucking do. I don't want to do what other people tell me to do because they think it's politically correct, and I don't mean that in, like, the cliché term. It is the politically correct thing to do. Like, I don't want to be on the cheer squad for Blackness 24/7, 365 in my work because that is someone's opinion of what my duty is. And it's like, "No, fuck you."
Yeah, so it's basically like Keith, the character, wrestling with which path should he take.
I can absolutely identify with that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
'Cause, like, one of the common refrains I've had is just, like, I can't, like, just do what I fucking want without someone being like, "Oh, you should do this other
Because
thing, though."
it's like back to back. He has a black lady tell him what you just said. Like people tell you
Yeah.
that you should use your platform to talk about black issues and uplift the black community. And then he basically has a similar response to what you just said. And then on the bus ride home, he's doodling, and someone is like, "Oh, I love that comic strip. Like, I also like to doodle it." And he's like, "I'm the creator." And the white person on the bus is like, "Oh, I didn't think you'd be so tall." Like the
Uh-huh.
person like realized what they were about to say, and
Yeah.
then
Shut up immediately, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And I don't doubt for a second other people also contend with this because the world is full of people who wanna tell you what to fucking do. But, like,
yeah.
my whole thing is if that is how you feel, I encourage you to learn to draw. It'll take you a few years. It certainly took me a few years. And then when you have reached a level of competence that
By a
you're
few, I
comfortable
mean
with,
like 10.
make the comics you are demanding I make because I did not put in 30 years of practice for you to tell me what to do for free. And it's at the same I understand it's not coming from a place of malice, but at the same time, that doesn't mean I have to acquiesce.
Yeah. So, so
Mhm.
far it's a good show. I've only watched a couple of episodes. And then I looked it up on Wikipedia, and it apparently
All right,
got
y'all.
canceled after
I gotta
season
go to the
two.
bathroom real quick. Behave. Do not be
Uh,
problematic while I'm gone.
so it got
Uh,
Netflixed. It got Netflixed.
yeah. It seems like all the streaming services seem to run on that logic of like 2 seasons and then we're done.
For no good reason at all.
Oh, there's a reason. It's a dumb reason, but it is that's oh, after season 2, viewership isn't as high, so we
Yeah.
should cancel it. Not realizing like because people need to watch the first season
Yeah,
before they
exactly.
watch the new season.
Mhm.
So it's not that it's not getting new viewers, it's just the new viewers have to watch season 1 Netflix. Um
Yeah. It's a weird like there's so much evolution going on right now in sort of fiction entertainment in general. There is still sort of the lingering effects like to this day, in case folks don't remember, we still live with the lingering effects of the writers strike, the Hollywood writers strike that
mhm,
happened like a million years ago, like a dog's age ago. And what that is sort of the heavy like, a lot of primetime television, not all, obviously, but a lot of primetime television is weighted towards what they call unscripted content, which is
mhm.
reality shows and game shows, and that was inspired as a stopgap measure during the writers' strike, and we still, like, kind of fucking deal with that. We still have a lot of prime time that's all, I don't even know what's on anymore. I literally haven't turned on a TV and watched primetime television in decades, but, like, it's all Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, or can The Masked Singer, or Do You Think You Can Dance, or America's Got Talent, or all that other shit, and as a result, people have gotten used to a much more inexpensive mode of production because reality
Well, it's
stars
also as like streaming becomes more and more of a thing. Um, this is a thing that I've been listening to the Always Sunny in Philadelphia podcast. I probably mentioned it last time we did a geek show, but one of the things that they talked about that worked for their benefit when they started like 15 years ago is that simply by being on television, people channel surfing might stumble across your show.
Yeah,
Whereas for Netflix or other streaming services, no one is going to find those by accident.
yeah,
You only find it because you have heard about it and you go looking for it. Maybe Netflix put it on the front page, but yeah, that is basically hurting a lot of these shows that it might take a while for people that don't get immediate buzz because since they're not airing, it's going to take people a while. People aren't going to just stumble on them basically.
yeah.
So
There's
that's
no more
also part of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, browsing is very different now than it was before, and there are definitely times where, "Oh, here comes a commercial break, I'll see what's on the other channels," and you just click around, and you're like, "Oh, what's this?" And that's not so much a thing
Um
that happens anymore.
yeah, because the thing that they talked about with the first episode or really the first season of Always Sunny is they mentioned that their ratings were kind of shit, but they had a really good retention rate. So
Uh-huh.
it's like the people that tuned in finished the episode while it was airing. They
Yeah,
didn't like flip to something else.
yeah.
Um so and that is really like what worked in their favor because they didn't have a big audience when they started out.
Yeah,
But
the
yeah,
media landscape and another thing that kind of makes television and film the way it is, as opposed to, say, YouTube or Twitch
mhm,
or all these other kind of smaller channels, like, for example, Curiosity Stream and Brilliant and, um, all these free TV channels like Freevee and such.
mhm,
A thing that makes classic television different is much like Hollywood, it is risk averse and it doesn't
Mhm.
want to try new things because everything it tries, simply by dint of being a network show, is expensive. And they can't afford to fuck up too many times. So when you're seeing the announcements for new TV shows and it's all like, oh, guess what? We're redoing Scooby Doo. We're redoing this. We're redoing that. You like Law and Order? We're making another Law and Order series. It's Law and Order Beach Cops. Like, congratulations to Law and Order Beach Cops. And oh, you like cop shows? Here's another cop show. Oh, you like lawyer shows? Here's a lawyer show. You like cop and lawyer shows? We'll take a risk. We'll stick our necks out. Fireman show. You like fireman show? Okay, good. Like, here's another doctor show. It's like, really? And it's because it's so expensive to make primetime television, and every fuck up really
That
hurts.
that was another thing that the Always Sunny
I'm
podcast
back.
they
Are we
said was
canceled?
in their
Yes, absolutely.
no. Yeah, they said another thing, Spike, that they said was in their favor is they shot like the first season on this like rinky dinky home camera. So
Mhm,
it was actually extremely cheap to film the show.
mhm.
So it's like, well, your ratings are shit, but your retention rate's high, and your show is
Not that
stupidly
expensive.
cheap to make,
Yeah.
cheaper than our reality shows. So I guess we'll keep you around.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, that's actually behind a lot of, like, I think I've talked about this before on here, but kind of the most interesting stuff currently being done in film and television right now is stuff that's being done by kind of fast, cheap, and out of control philosophy studios. Studios that will
mhm.
basically fund nearly anything they find even remotely interesting
Did
as long as
they
it can be done on the cheap.
Is this the horror studio that made the creepy android movie that's out now, Megan or
Yes,
whatever?
this is by it's called Blumhouse, and Blumhouse
Yeah.
was a guy who basically was getting movies made for several $100,000, which is insanely cheap for Hollywood, and a
Mhm.
couple $1,000,000, which is also insanely cheap. And his
A
approach was just, 10 people who had, good track records came to him with ideas that they could shoot pretty cheaply, and he would look at their resumes, see what they'd done before, and be all like, okay, let's do it. Here's $2,000,000. And out of 10
um,
of them, maybe 8 would go down in flames, but one would make $10,000,000 and pay for the rest, and then one will make fucking $80,000,000. And that's just the
according
Blumhouse approach
to
to horror production.
according to critics, Megan is very good. It right now has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
When I
Um,
first saw it, I was like, yes, I too enjoyed Child's Play.
well, apparently it's better than that. So,
Well, honestly, it
like,
wouldn't be that hard to be better than Child's Play.
yeah, no, but I was surprised to see that. I was like, huh, that's interesting that it's good. I was not expecting it to be good at all.
And for folks who are like, would I know anything by Blumhouse? Like, yes, it's also it's they did Megan, but you have probably also heard of Paranormal Activity, and I'm reading this off Wikipedia. It's the absolute truth. Paranormal Activity was kind of their first big thing. It came out in 2007. They paid $15,000 to have it made, and it grossed nearly $200 million worldwide. And that was kind of like the jet fuel. And
Which is
after that,
wild to me. I
yeah,
finally sat down and watched them.
yeah. And then they did The
Those are the
Purge.
most boring fucking movies I've ever seen in my life.
They did The Purge, so you've probably heard of The Purge. It was likewise very inexpensive and kind of went off like a bomb and everybody watched it. They also did Get Out. So you probably heard of Get Out. They funded Get Out. And I'm looking at a list right now. They
Did
do
they do his other movies too, like Nope and whatnot, or did other
from the look
people
of
swoop in?
no, the people who were cowards to fund Jordan Peele's first movie, have now come running because again, Hollywood is risk averse and kind of cowardly in its behavior.
Now they're like, well, now that you're successful, we
Exactly.
like
Now
you.
now that you're successful, we like you is kind of like the Hollywood attitude, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that's how it fucking is. That's how they act because they are so expensive, they cannot take risks.
I mean,
But
they
yeah,
choose
that
to be that expensive. They could have
they
they could do things that, you know.
yeah, they choose to be expensive, I guess you
A
could
lot
say
of them
that.
really do. Like there are so many situations where they
Yeah,
like go out of their way to like raise the costs on shit just for this. I don't know why. Like the fucking Disney Pinocchio, the Disney Pinocchio remake. That fucking puppet is CGI the entire time, even when he's a fucking puppet being carved out of wood. Like,
Ugh.
no,
And
do
like
y'all know how much cheaper it would have been to just get someone to 3D
have a
print?
fucking puppet. Yeah.
Did I say 3D
Yeah.
print? I mean 3D print.
Yeah.
3D printed.
Yeah.
You don't even have to get too fancy. It would have done.
Uh,
Instead, you have
I
like what's Tom Hanks holding like air.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of machinations going on in
Yeah.
Hollywood just surrounding the concept of Pinocchio right now, simply
Well,
because
there's also so like to talk about like what Amanda's saying, like they choose to be that expensive is partly like John Waters talked about how no one wants to fund those low budget movies anymore,
yeah.
like except for the studio you're talking about because
Mhm.
like they want to go big or go home. They don't
Yeah.
want to make a bunch of moderate successes.
It's a matter of like
that made
investing
their
tons of
yeah.
money so you can make tons of money later.
Yeah, and that's what
Yeah.
happens when you have these mega corporations, these globe spanning megacorps that need a film to make $400 million.
Yeah, so he was talking about like all of his movies he couldn't make them today
Yeah.
because they're just even though they're cheap, people will be like, well, because they're cheap, we do not expect them to make billions, so we don't want to back them.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, people kind of have the wrong idea about, what qualifies as a success these days. Like, all right, so the movie everybody was dunking on in 22, Morbius, right?
Mhm.
Now, always always assume there's some creative accounting going on in Hollywood. Always. Like
Mhm.
people, the general knowledge will tell you, take what they tell you it cost and double it, and that's probably what it really cost. Now, in Morbius's case, if you do that, you did maybe 170 million is what it costs because the reported budget is between 75 and 83 million. So let's go with 170. And the box office was 167.5. Now you're probably sitting there going, "Oh, that's not, I mean, they almost broke even and they probably broke even. That's not too awful." Break even is unacceptable. Doubling your money is unacceptable. These people need to make $400 million or they are literally freaking disappointed
But it's
because of the
even
sheer scale they are working on.
but even if you did 10 times what the funding of the movie was,
Mhm.
if it's a low costing movie, that's not enough. Like, so it's
Yeah.
not so it's not even about the percentage over profit wise. It is
Mhm.
about we need to make billions. So
Yeah.
like if you made something that was $1,000 and made $1 million off of it, they would be like, well, that's not enough.
Yeah. $1 million is not enough to these people, correct?
Yeah.
And
They're entering in this not to make a movie that ends up an accidental hit.
Yeah.
They are entering into it. This needs to be a blockbuster.
Yeah, there is a
Yeah.
statement that goes around that I think is kind of antiquated, but I've always found it really useful in these kinds of discussions, which is, but will it play in Peoria? And this is an old vaudeville saying where once upon a time, Peoria, Illinois was considered like the perfect cross section of America. Don't ask me why, it just was. And if your show
Like the
can
world
do
was
well
smaller.
in Peoria, that's all you need. You can take it. You can take it globally. You can take it nationwide. You can tour coast to coast because if it can play in Peoria, that means it's ready for prime time. And Hollywood, as it currently is right now, vast majority, of course, I'm speaking in vast grand generalizations, and there are definitely people out there who are not like this. A24, Blumhouse, Frederator, all those people. But in general, the very, very big studios are always concerned about playing in Peoria, except these days on a global scale, playing in Peoria means we'll be one of the like 40 Western films China will allow in the country this year. So things like that are informing their decisions. They want literally everyone's money, everyone's money. So what you will get will be as bland as they can make it without boring you. And that is simply the truth. It will not say anything challenging. It will not say anything too thoughtful. It will not say anything that they can say with absolute certainty a significant percentage of their audience will disagree with.
You know what
It
I'm
will
gonna go
not
see with my family this weekend that I'm looking forward to?
what?
The new Puss in Boots movie.
Yeah.
I heard it's really fucking good and nobody saw it coming.
Yeah, one of the things that kind of
I
amuses me
what
about
they
Shrek is Shrek
okay,
was originally
well,
conceived of as making fun of that whole sort of like Disney animated machine, and now it's become exactly what it originally
okay,
mocked.
Wait,
but
what?
but
What's this got to do with Puss in Boots?
but before you
Becau-
go off on this tangent, I just want to share a very short thing about the Puss in Boots movie. Um, I saw someone took a
Do you think the wolf
screenshot
is
of
hot,
its.
Kel?
I haven't seen The Wolf. So,
Okay.
someone took a screenshot of the Rotten Tomatoes rating. That's like both
Oh
critic
yeah.
and audience are above 90%. And then someone took a picture of the Avatar 2 Rotten Tomatoes rating and said, "Can you imagine working on a movie for over 10 years to have Puss in Boots number whatever
Yeah.
be more well received than your 10 years of work."
Yeah, and I just want to say, I'm not sitting here saying that good movies can't be made within these parameters I'm discussing. They absolutely can. They absolutely can. And it's more about the movies you can guarantee won't be made within these parameters than actually making a value judgment on the movies that do get made. Just want to say that real quick. Because I'm not saying all Hollywood films are
Mhm.
bad. That's stupid.
Well, yeah.
That's
Nobody
like
said that
that would be
yet.
like saying all independent films are good. They definitely are. They're as a matter of fact, some of my favorite independent films are absolutely fucking terrible. Like this that judgment isn't a part of this. I am talking about there are people who are making decisions in very large studios that have a global perspective, and the decisions they make are not about art.
Well, we know. We've
And
talked about this a lot in previous episodes. This is not
yeah, I just this is
unexplored territory.
yeah, this is
Yeah,
the thing that I'm interested in.
that's why I was like, before Spike goes on this longer tangent, I need to share the imagine working for 10 years on a thing
And I
to
Yeah.
just
be
heard it's
outdone
good,
by
and
Puss
I'm
in Boots.
excited
Yeah.
about good animated movies. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I say it's related to Shrek because Puss in Boots was originally a character in Shrek, and yes, I know he's not made up by Shrek.
What? No one was what?
When you said, "What does Puss in Boots have to do with Shrek?" That's the
That's
answer.
not what I said.
What'd you say?
she sa-
Never
she
mind. Just keep
said, "What
talking. No,
does
no.
this have to? What
No,
does
no, no, no. Just keep
like?"
talking. Just for it
Okay,
doesn't matter
fine.
what I said. It was a little aside, but that was not what I meant, and it doesn't matter. It's just going to derail the conversation.
Okay. But yeah,
Um,
there's a lot of interesting insight because I am friends with animators, and animators are sort of an aspect of Hollywood that's very weird and very much in turmoil. Although I would hazard a guess, like all parts of Hollywood are perpetually in turmoil.
oh yeah, like right now it's real bad.
Yeah.
Like because there's a lot of people in charge of media right now who are making decisions not based on art, not even based on how much, like it's not even like global thinking, how will this be received. It is completely accounting decisions,
Oh, absolutely. Like destroying the
like
Batgirl movie.
yeah, destroying the Batgirl movie, taking half the shit off of HBO Max that was on
Mhm.
there. Like one of the shows that I really liked and thought that you would also enjoy, Spike, they just took off HBO Max. Minx. It was about making a porno magazine in the 70s that's aimed at women. So
Oh,
it's just um feminism and porno coming together to make naked dude centerfolds or whatever. And that just got taken off HBO Max, even though it was really funny. And then I they're probably going to axe basically everything that they're not continuing. And
yeah.
they're going to not even leave them up. They're just going to take them down.
And
Because then they'll get a write off.
these are decisions that are
Yeah.
made in the accounting department, you know?
Yeah. And that is running across the board, like a lot of people reporting uh there was a pilot that went on record about what went wrong with Southwest, like from his perspective as someone with his feet on the ground.
Yeah.
And he talked about basically in the early 2000s, the guy who was in charge of Southwest Airlines before 2000, I think 4, was someone who really liked to talk to people at every level of operation to figure out how things are working, what can be improved. And he was replaced by a guy who had no experience running an operation of any kind. He only had accounting experience, and so he didn't actually care what it was like to be a pilot, what it was like to be a stewardess, what it was like to be anyone that worked for Southwest on any level.
Uh-huh.
And he just cared about the bottom line, and cutting costs, regardless of like some of those things were there. They were putting money in for a reason. And so this was just the accumulation of all of those guys, like cost cutting decisions that weren't actually talking to the various levels of operation, because part of the problem was caused by they hadn't updated any of their computer systems since the late 90s.
Yeah.
Just how they manage who's working where, and all those little things that add up to, because they were ignored for so long, they're now all exploding.
Right. Right.
And if someone who knew how to operate or paid to talk to people who did actually know how to make things run efficiently, like this wouldn't have happened.
This is
Um,
reminiscent of a thing that I have heard said, and this was being said,
mhm,
by the way, in, like, the '90s, late '90s, so this is where this is coming from. Where my dad, went to school to get his MBA, and
mhm,
he actually brought home some interesting magazines and textbooks from the courses, and one of them discussed in sort of very downhearted terms that there was a noticeable shift in managerial styles across the board in the United States when the people who were in charge stopped being the people who started at the bottom and air quotes worked their way up and
yeah,
started being people who just got MBAs and entered the business at the managerial level. And I think about
yeah,
that a lot when I hear about like insane decisions that make no sense to anybody with boots on the ground.
yeah. And
Kick
so
starter,
it's,
excuse
yeah,
me. Oh, excuse me.
yeah. So it's stuff
I'm
like
sorry,
that,
did I
and
hear
then
tech bros
around.
disrupting industries?
But yeah, like there in the '50s, for example, it was one of the things that was ballyhooed and considered really proud and something for a company to brag about is, our COO started out as a bag boy in the Winn-Dixie in Salem, Massachusetts, and now he's on the board and he's been with the company for 40 years and whatever you want
Mhm.
to tell him, he knows what it's like, so you tell him. And like that was considered an invaluable asset to the company, and now someone just gets an MBA and they enter as the COO, and they might not
Yeah, and
necessarily know a first fucking thing about running a Wing Dixie.
so yeah, so it's like stuff like that. And there was an article that I actually linked to you in the Iron Circus Slack about how Barnes and Noble is doing better than it had in decades before the pandemic.
Mhm,
Because they started basically treating their Barnes and Nobles like independent bookstores. So like on one level it's like, well, it's good that they figured out that like to get people to shop at your bookstore, care about books, and the employees that like um are also interested in books, like value their opinions and whatnot.
mhm.
But on the same level, it's like you did put all the indie bookstores out of business, and now you're realizing that their tactics are the only thing that will save you from the same fate.
Yeah,
Now that Amazon is the go-to.
yeah.
Uh, whatever.
Watching storefronts, brick and mortars evolve to deal with the fact that Amazon is just kind of there has been
Mhm.
honestly really fascinating from a external point of view because you have to now, if you are running a physical location and it's not like a food location, like a thing people
Mhm.
have to go to, you have to figure out a way to create experiences for customers that they can't get just by pressing an order now button. And one
Mhm.
of my favorites is there's a comic shop in Texas. And what they do now, it's like, yeah, you could go on Amazon and you could like order the new Sin City omnibus if you really want to, or you can come into the shop. And in the shop, we have weekly D&D sessions right up front where everyone can see them. And there's also a shop cat. You can come pet the cat if you want. And oh, have you seen this section over here where you can like sit down with a coffee and like read a
You
book
talking
and
about
you don't
Dragon's
necessarily.
Lair?
Yes, I am. It's really good.
They
It's
used to
really
have
good.
their bumper sticker on my car,
Oh.
but then
But
someone
yeah,
hit my
Uh,
car.
and ruined the bumper sticker.
He ruined my bumper sticker.
But yeah, it's
uh,
super interesting and good seeing businesses sort of like in a way I kind of wish they didn't have to, but I understand like that's not up to me, that's not up to them. That's the fucking nature of the world. But seeing the approaches they take trying to change the way they do business to create experiences you can't get online, I think that's honestly really good for communities.
yeah, and I really like Books with Pictures is the comic shop that I go to on the reg, because I even though there is a comic shop closer to me, I think that the comic shop closer to me is a bit too um, older white guy focused.
Uh-huh.
And not even superhero older white guy, like indie comic X white guy.
Yeah, it's hard to
Yeah,
believe now, but there was definitely a period in indie comics where they were very like 20 something white guy flavored. Very much.
yeah, so it's kind of still got that stank on it. Um,
Your
like,
words, not mine. Your words, not mine.
like I went in and they don't have a single Iron Circus book.
Well, that's not surprising.
Um,
If you could went from your
um,
description, I could just assume.
Oh man,
and
never mind. Oh wait.
like, um, but they have like a bunch of Arcrum
Of course.
bullshit,
Of
like
course they
anthologies
do.
and
Of
yeah.
course they do.
Yeah, anyway, so going back to Books with Pictures, I walk an hour to Books with Pictures rather than go to the one that is closer to me. Because um I like what they got there. I think they have a good selection and then they also make good recommendations. Like I went and picked up I have been getting the Sailor Moon Eternal editions.
Mhm.
And I was picking up one that I had like ordered because they didn't have like volume 10. Um and asked like, all right, well while I'm here, what do you recommend? And I picked up they recommended one called The Night Eaters, which is really good. It's about two kids finding out that their mom is some weird supernatural entity that eats demons.
As one does.
Um,
As one does.
yeah, and the art's fucking beautiful. And I was like, yep, this is my jam. Middle-aged lady like eating monsters and
Yeah.
kicking butt.
That
Definitely into this.
that sounds good.
Um,
Yeah.
But
yeah,
last
I was
night,
like,
y'all made me think about this. Last night I went to the Iron Circus warehouse because we were gonna count the dinged and scratched books for the sale.
Yeah.
I didn't realize all the different places that those come from.
Oh yeah.
There's library copies, there's partially prepared library copies, there's Amazon. It's really interesting. Amazon returns.
Yeah.
Like we were
mhm,
taking some but the most interesting ones were the library returns and the partially finished library returns. So libraries will, depending on the type of book, sometimes laminate the books before they put their little labels on them.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes they will also cut them. But there are certain Iron Circus books that always apparently get trimmed.
Mhm.
It was very interesting because I was sorting all the books and going, why the fuck is this book a different size? And I realized, oh, a sliver has been like and this
Yeah.
I think it was Penultimate Quest. That's a
Yeah.
thick ass book, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, these libraries have like, I know they have bookbinding equipment to help prepare books. I didn't know they could do this. Like, it
Yeah.
is this giant thick ass book where, like, they trimmed the book to the point where the page numbering was cut in half. So it didn't affect
Oh,
the art or anything, but all the page lettering was cut in half on Penultimate Quest.
yeah.
And it's like, God damn, y'all got some equipment.
Yeah, it's worth like, for folks who don't know, when you are working in volume, some shit is always gonna get damaged. It's literally unavoidable. That's just how it is. And the majority of large publishers, when you go with your distributor, one of the questions they ask you is, "What do you want us to do with the hurts?" Hurts. The hurts is what they call them. And most of them say, "Pulp them." But we say, "Send them back to us," which is the unusual option because we sell them at half price. And let me fucking tell you, that shit flies off the shelf. Like, we cannot keep Hertz in stock
It's
on the
so
online store,
funny.
which is
Some
why
of
we
these books are
yeah,
like, oh, it's got a dinged up cover. Oh, this one was clearly not handled well. And then you get
yeah,
one where you're just like, what the fuck happened to you? How did you
yeah,
get this fucked up? Like, it's half the book is folded in half and somehow like pressed
yeah.
that way.
Like how yeah, it's some of it is like from my experience, some of it is just the whoever is working for the printer that day didn't give a shit. And they saw an extra book that should be in the box, they picked it up, they threw it in, they didn't worry about putting it in right, and then they closed it. And so it arrived at Ingram fucked up. There are some where somebody was unpacking at the bookstore and they dropped the book, and it's like you said, Penultimate Quest or another big heavy boy, a thick boy, and it like just the edge gets bashed in, and there's no repairing that. The edge just gets bashed. So it goes back as a hurt. And it's all the way up from a couple corners got slightly crumpled to it looks like someone was going to run this through a shredder and got halfway through and changed their mind.
Yeah,
Like
there were a
that,
few where if I did not know better, I think a human took a bite. Like, a human just said,
yeah.
smut peddler, don't mind if I do, and just took a giant fucking bite out of it. I'm like, how did this happen to you?
Yeah, like we don't sell the absolutely
No, no,
unreadable
no.
hurts, but like 95% of them, I mean, the reading of experience will
No.
not be remotely
There's
affected.
a special pile that's being curated. It
Mhm.
has the library copies that still have their library codes on them.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a few of those. And there's also the monstrously destroyed books. I would love to take a giant group photo. They're just, you
yeah.
look at them and all you can think is, how did this happen?
Like, what did you do to this book?
And then some of them very obviously came from, like, they have never seen a store before.
Yeah.
What's really funny is, I guess because, for convenience, since these are all the hurts, they use other books as padding. So, like, I pulled
Mhm.
out this little hardback prose novel that's been chewed to shit that they were using as padding, and I walked over to Matt and I'm like, here you go, a very strange present for you.
Yeah, you know what you should do? You should take all the hurts and you should pile like the really fucked ones, like the absolutely destroyed ones. Take them all and pile them together and just take a photo. And we'll use that as the graphic for the
No,
sale.
no, no, no. People will think that's what they're buying. You can't do that. No.
Oh, good point. Good
People
point.
will get
We
their,
will post it. We'll post it to Instagram then, just being
yeah.
all like, the hurts that you'll get are in good condition, but this is how bad it can get.
No, it would be a very good photo to take once we're all done. The
Mhm.
other thing is, because these are the piles of, and sorry if I'm talking too much, but
No, Amanda,
Yeah, you're
everyone
good.
here
I'm just making
is here
sure.
to listen to you talk.
Oh, I'm just making sure. Because I
Keep
did
going.
kind of grab the conversation and run with it. I said it's mine now.
Got it.
Because I just wanted to talk about, because this is just so interesting to me.
Oh, it
Um,
is. Yeah.
the other thing is, when they send these over, it's not like you get, here's a box of smut peddlers that are damaged. Here's a box of Patience and Esther's that are damaged. Here's a box of softies that are, no, it's just, here's a box of damaged. They just all are from Iron Circus. So it's like, I'm at that phase where I'm pulling them out and trying to just organize them and put them on a shelf so we can get a good count of them. And I think, okay, cool, I got that sorted. And I open another box, and at the very bottom, there's like 5 more of book A that I thought I counted. So it's like, fuck, we're not counting.
Yeah. Like when boxes come nice and pretty from the printer, they're all organized, you know, the boxes are made to size. They're you know exactly how many copies are in that box rather, because it's all the same title. And after a while, you know how many copies of Patience and Esther are in a Patience and Esther box because that's how many copies are in every Patience and Esther box. So when people order them and you're like, we need 50 Patience and Esther, it's like, okay, cool. You select just a certain number of boxes. You don't even open them. You just send them over. And like that's really cool. That's very convenient. But Hertz are a whole they are like the shit show of publishing.
Next year, well, not next, technically, okay, so my year for me, 2023 for me doesn't actually start till I get back from Texas because that's my holidays. I skipped the holidays. My holidays are still to come. But when I say
Uh-huh.
next year, I mean after the 9th.
Yeah.
So next year, quote, quote, one of my goals is to start doing vlogs, but with my puppet as a way to practice puppetry, but also wean myself off of Twitter more because the things I would usually just make a big tweet about, I am now going to try to put more effort in. It's one of those, if it's worth making a vlog about, do it. But if it's not worth
Right.
making a vlog about, maybe you shouldn't have tweeted about it either. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Trying to
Mhm.
sort of, yeah, address Twitter usage is a thing that's pretty
Yeah.
popular, right?
But also, I talk a lot, and I like to talk, and not to be weird, but I've noticed people like it when I talk a lot. So
Yes, we
this is
do.
trying to, basically talk when it's actually in, like, are you actually saying anything? If you're really, really saying something, maybe you'll do a little vlog. But also, it's killing many birds with one stone because I do
Uh-huh.
want to make puppet stuff. And
Yeah.
I have all my equipment now, and now I need to practice. And this just seems like a good way to practice.
That does sound fun. Yeah, I'm kind of one of those people that's discovering a big creative drive once again now that I have a new platform to put it on. So, like, just with the launch of co-host and co-host kind of being there now, it's like this place I can put my dumb comics. And I'm actually doing something I never thought I'd do, which is I'm using kind of that webtoon scroll format for the comics. It wasn't like a conscious decision. It was just like a thing that happened. And I always thought like, no, that's not for me. I don't think I'll do it that way, but ah,
It
I
can
don't know.
fit certain projects.
Yeah, it fits what I'm currently doing. So just like fuck it, do the
It's a
long
format
scroll.
that can work. It
Yeah,
just shouldn't be a format anyone's strong armed into.
exactly. And so now I'm doing a comic that's kind of like the old fashioned comic that's page by page by page in anticipation of being printed one day. The anticipation in anticipation of being printed one day. And then I'm also doing this other weird little comic over here that's just the infinite canvas scrolling comic. And just like, who cares what happens to it? Who fucking
Here,
cares?
y'all are a
And
captive audience. I'm gonna make y'all tell me what you think of this character.
oh, is this in Discord?
It's about to be.
Let's see. I get to see something none of you get to see. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha.
I was gonna flash it
Yeah,
on.
look at all these fucking Kel, are you recommending a bunch of RimWorld mods to Amanda?
That was a while ago. You missed out,
That
Spike.
was Amanda. That was Amanda asked a couple of days ago what mods that we use that
Mhm.
aren't huge game changer ones. More like UI
Quality
minor
of life
quality of life
things.
things, not something like Dub's Bad Hygiene, which adds plumbing.
Yeah.
More like if you look at all the ones I recommended, it's like don't block the door and go to sleep.
And the one where they don't equivocate eating without a table as the same as a war crime. Yes.
Yes.
Mm.
Eating without a table
I
is
have
not a war
posted it.
crime, despite what RimWorld characters think. I like her outfit,
This
and
is
her
very
colors.
cute.
I kind of wish the green on her shoes was the light green because that would it's kind of right now the same value as the pants, but maybe that's intentional on your part.
I like how her tail mirrors her hairstyle. If it was me, I'd give her earrings, but I understand that is me.
No, she's a fighter. She wouldn't
uh
wear earrings.
Okay.
yeah, so because you're asking specifically about the colors, so that's why I'm
Yeah.
focusing
Yeah.
on. So yeah, so I think maybe lightening the shoes a little bit because they're the same value as the pants would be my main thing to say, but otherwise, I feel like it's good. It like
Okie dokie.
harmonizes well.
It's a very earthy palette.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
Is that like the yeah.
basically this is I'm approaching a Starry Night chapter where it's like I kind of went back to thumbnailing like an idiot, but it's like I had a better idea. And this is like this is your last chance to get this character's design down before you actually have to commit her to a page.
Ah, Starry Night. What's that, Amanda?
I don't know, some gay comic I'm making.
Quite literally some gay comic.
No, it's a magical girl comic I'm making for Iron Circus, and I gotta finish it this year.
Woo! Excited.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Here,
Yeah.
I can actually I'll share the image. These dorks that are watching, it might as
Yeah,
well
I'm gonna
this
be
might as
real.
well make this a visual experience.
I still don't quite know how to how to do anything in that chat. Except like, delete stuff. I'm
You,
assuming if the actual
what would
Iron
you need to do?
like the Iron Circus account, if it
There it
posts
is.
from the YouTube dashboard, it can post links, right? Or no?
No. The only thing that can post links is the Iron Circus. Like, wait, are you talking
Account.
about the chat room for the YouTube?
Yes.
Okay, the Iron Circus account is the only one that has permission. So as long as you're logged into the Iron Circus YouTube, you can brain fart. Sorry, let me hide this now. You can post links. You just can't do it as on your personal account.
Okay.
But just to keep people from spamming if I happen to get distracted and look at. No one can post heinous links.
I need to mute myself,
Yeah.
and I'll be back shortly. So just FYI, I'll come back, but just if I'm not
Yeah, I saw
talking
your
for the next
message.
couple of minutes, folks. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
Kel's here. We can talk about Theophilus. Kel's not here. We can talk about Theophilus again.
oh, okay. That moment's passed, but if you want to.
No, I'm mostly being goofy. It's just while we've been talking, I've been sort of lazily, casually looking through old Theophilus, however you want to say it.
Thank you.
Theophilus.
I'm proud of the hair.
Mhm.
He's themed around lily pads.
Oh, I didn't catch that, but now that you say it, I can see it. Like complete with the flower.
Almost all of the I say they start out as antagonists, but they're basically antagonists and the love interest or the secondary main character.
So it turns love triangle-y?
No.
Oh.
No, there's no love triangle. I'm saying like
Okay.
I'm lumping these characters into a group real quick because the antagonists and the secondary protagonists are all like horse people, but they're all based on mythical horses.
Okay.
And the main
I wouldn't have guessed horse.
when I say they're horse people, I'm saying they're like fae that have vaguely horse-like qualities, and it's really just aesthetic. Like the protagonist love interest looks like a unicorn.
Okay.
And then this one's meant to be like a kelpie.
Okay. Kelpies are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that entice you to ride them and then drown you, right?
Yes, but this one,
Oh.
yes, that's what they're based on. This one is
That's
less like that. This is like a kelpie who's not good at being a. And then her sister, who
See,
appears later, is extremely good at being a kelpie.
I enjoy that. I enjoy the sort of mystical creature that has a designation in mythology, but they kind of suck at that designation. Like,
I like this character
like,
when they first show up because they're way too friendly for the job they've been given. It's why they fuck it up when they first show up.
uh-huh.
Like, when they first show up, they're trying to get this object that Waverly, the unicorn girl, has that she accidentally drops, and then Chablis, the main character, like picks it up, and then the lily pad chick, I think I'm just gonna call her Lily, is absolutely lazy because her name used to be Aries, and that makes no sense anymore based on her
Fair
original
enough.
design. But I'm just probably
Do what you want, free country.
So when Lily shows up, she's like, you see Shipley has picked up, is like, oh hey, can I have that? And Shipley quietly goes, is this yours? And the Lily character's like, no, but I want it. And it's like, and then they pause, and Lily's like, oh, if I had told you that it was mine, you probably would have just given it to me, huh? And Shipley's
Oh.
like, Yes, and that's why I'm now not going to give it to you. I just
I
like
am
that
interested.
little exchange of like, oh shit, if I had
No,
lied, you probably would have totally given it to me, huh?
no, I totally fucking get like getting caught up on like you're just sitting there, you're just imagining stuff, and you think up a conversation, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh fuck, I have to jot that down before I forget it, and I've got to use that somewhere. I'm not even sure what comic I'm going to use it in, but I gotta
Oh
use
yeah,
it.
no, I have a notebook. Let me go. In fact, I have a notepad file on my desk. Let me close all these goddamn windows. Oh god. Oh my god, I have so many Spike, help, I'm in hell. Where is
I
it?
also have a file. It's a Google Doc though.
Okay, here's one. Oh yeah, here it is. Dialogue ideas for comics, but like
You're like, I'll never be that clever again.
here
I've
I
got to
can
write
read
that
two
down.
of them. One is I've got a TTRPG for you. We sit at the dinner table and pretend we're a normal family. Then I've got this other one that says I am held together with tape and oh no, this is for a specific character, but I'm gonna save who it's later. But I'm held
Mhm.
together with tape and spit. What are you gonna do to replace the tape and spit? Bitch, I cannot afford to be in pieces while I wait to be put together correctly. I have shit to do.
I like that.
That's
Oh, I'm
oh,
actually I'm going to ruin something for the 24 people
yeah, let me
watching
close
because
that. There's more in there, but like those are the top two.
I'm going to ruin something for the 24 people watching because I can, and it doesn't super count as ruining because it's going to go up in the next 3 or 4 days anyway. So, but the comic that I've been neglecting for the better part of a month, Blacata, the one about the commie elves, it ended off on a page where one of the characters was admitting they had stolen a leg bone from a corpse and turned it into a flute. And there's like some minor world building that was going on there because when the when one of the characters notices this person has this flute, he says, Ta, who is that? And Ta is the person's name. And he doesn't say, what is that? He says, who is that? So there's some like world building going on.
Yeah, I liked that.
And Ta replies, oh, you know the lady in the hareskin mantle riding the big green rock? It's her shin, the big bone. And the page I'm working on right now is the follow up to that, where the character is just looking at Ta with that sort of I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed face. And he says just Ta. And Ta replies, I'm sorry, I can put her back. And he goes, well, she's a flute now. Like, there's nothing that can be done. She's a flute now. It's kind of late for that. And then they are interrupted by another character who has been looking at a newspaper. And this character is sort of regarded as the most intelligent one there by everyone. And this person is looking at a house fire. What they're looking at is a house being torched. And they had been asked to interpret the photo because this is a society where photos are not common and newspapers are not common. And the main character presented it to the intelligent, air quotes, character saying, what is this? And the intelligent character replies, this is a tent. And everyone turns around as he's pointing to the house on fire. And they go, what? And he goes, this is a tent. This is a grass eater tent. They make their tents out of wood and stick them in the ground like they're food. So that is more world building-y stuff that I was like really proud of when I came up to. It's like, this is a grass eater tent. They make their tents out of wood and they stick them in the ground like they're food. It's like,
I'm back.
hi, Cal.
Hi.
We are
Everything's fine.
just talking about
Okay.
coming up with little snippets of dialogue we really, really love and like swearing, oh, I've got to use this somewhere, even if I don't know
Oh,
where.
I have one of those that's fun to share.
Yeah.
So in City Between, the world has recently found out about werewolves, but
Mhm.
werewolves, to avoid a minority metaphor with werewolves and the supernatural in general, I made them extra super rare. Like I looked up the rate of certain genetic deformities because I needed it to be something that was rare, that most people are not going to interact with it every day,
Mhm.
but common enough that if someone told you they knew someone that was a werewolf, you wouldn't completely disbelieve them.
Uh-huh.
Because of that, werewolves get a lot of weird questions because that's probably going to be the only werewolf that you meet, or like one of like two. And I have
Connor is kind of the one that's all about respectability politics. Um, and Jeff, who is more of an idiot, he doesn't
What's your
care as
political
much.
alignment, idiot?
Yeah, political alignment idiot. He's more like people ask him questions and he'll just answer them, even if it's TMI. So a question that I've gotten about every single werewolf story that I've written is, do their dicks not? Um,
Okay.
and so Connor's response to that is like, that's none of your fucking business. What? How dare you? Why would you ask that? Um, and whereas Jeff's answer is, well, you see, um, changing just one part of your body actually requires a lot of concentration. So while I can theoretically get it to do that, it really kills the mood. So so I wanted to have him say that to someone. Um, and that was the funny bit of dialogue. Just like the two of them get asked the question at the same time, and you have Connor's like, "What? Why would you fucking ask that?" And Jeff's, "Well, you see
Uh-huh.
how it works."
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, and then Connor just being like, "You have no shame and no dignity and no
I hate
self-respect.
questions like
How
that
dare
because
you?"
like
Yeah.
there are places for it, and it's like if you're into that, that's fine. There are places for it, but like when it comes to like things like this has never been a this would do nothing for the story or the world building. You just want to know because you're horny. I just want
They
to like,
wanna
I don't
know
know.
for their
Tell me about
fanfic,
your
I guess.
grandpa's dick. Tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it look like? Explain it to me.
Explain your grandpa's dick to me,
Yeah,
Amanda
explain-
Lafreniere,
yeah.
2023.
I'm just saying, if we're gonna get like that, if we're gonna like be inappropriate, fine. Tell me
Yeah.
about your
Yeah.
grandpa's
Yeah.
dick.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I like that contrast between the two of them when getting that question. Just how
Mhm.
dare you? And well, this is how it works.
Yeah.
And they're like in a diner when this happens, so it is completely not an appropriate time to ask this question or explain the details.
Right. Right. Yeah, I've been neglecting Placata for months because I got caught up in doing my comic about the little black blob and his terrible friend. But the little black blob and terrible friend have run a sufficient enough course. I am no longer in burning love with them. I can settle down and get back to the slow burn story about three shitty people living under a tree. Like Keebler elves. I think it was Kel who pointed that out, that they're fucking Keebler elves. They're goddamn Keebler elves. They live in a tree.
That might have been Amanda, but it
No.
was someone on here that
Yeah.
pointed it out. but
They live in a
They were
they-
Keebler elves.
They are Keebler elves. They live under a tree because they have no home. There is so much fucking world building going on, just like behind the scenes there. Like they don't have a house, and they don't have a house, by the way, because they have no woman to make the house for them. Because in their culture, if you don't have a woman, you don't have a house.
Mhm.
And
So
there's
they
some-
just live under a tree.
There's some shit. You know how some people get disappointed if people like guess something too early?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be dropping some like I'm so like I've been working on the fucking Starnet forever, and there's some like foreshadowy shit. And if people like don't pick up on it, I will be so mad.
Oh, I know that feeling.
I got shit I'm baking in there really early. If you don't pick up on it, I'm gonna fight you in the street. If you
I
act
did,
like
I did-
if you act like a certain plot relevant, like where'd this come from? I'll fight you.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're like, oh, this came out of nowhere. Like, no, I hinted it on page 6.
There was so in Murky Water, the city between story that just wrapped up, there is the mystery is that someone drowned in the middle of their living room. And how did that happen? And the answer is magic water. That's how it happened. But it was like assisted suicide via magic water. And later on in the comic, the person who can use magic water is killing someone else via drowning them by making like a water bubble around their head. And someone's comment is like, "That's a really horrific way to die." And then was like, "Why would if you were going to kill yourself, why would you choose that method?" Um, and it's like, yeah, that seems really weird, and it's a thing that like because it's going to be revealed that actually it wasn't assisted suicide. He tried to back out of the suicide pact and then got murdered.
You are correct. It is
So
weird.
Mhm.
yeah, it is. You are correct that it is weird, and that is a horrific way to die.
Yep.
So I always
I
like
don't
it
get
when
the oh
people
no
pick
people
up that shit.
I don't get the
Yeah,
oh no people figured it out. I'm like no that's good
Yeah.
that's the point.
That means to
that's
me, that means you're doing your job. That means you're laying
yeah.
breadcrumbs. So I don't get, like you, Amanda, I do not get when people are upset when someone follows the breadcrumb trail. I was like, no, that
Yeah.
why'd you put down breadcrumbs if
I
you're upset
I
people follow
remember
them?
my this is a thing that a writing teacher I had in college suggested that um I think is a good motto is don't get too concerned with trying to surprise the reader
Yeah.
because um if they're paying attention they should be able to figure it out. What you
Yeah.
should focus on instead is surprising the character.
Yes.
um
Yes,
so
exactly.
Like in Starry Night because I'm still on that. That's where my brain's been basically. If I haven't been
yeah.
doing work, I've been thinking about Starry Night. Cause gotta get this fucking show on the road. Um, mm, Again, there's only like 25 people watching. No one's gonna fucking remember. But mind
Yeah,
control
exactly.
kind of becomes a plot element later. It's
Uh-huh.
kind of a thing. Um, and but very but to like set it up early on. Um, Chablis gets really pissy when she first meets Waverly, and it's just like, "Did you mind control my mom? That's really shit." Like, oh my god, she's like, and Waverly's response is like to whip around and be very offended, like, "That is forbidden. How dare you accuse me of that?" And Chablis like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And just the fact that she doesn't say, "I can't do that," she says, "That's forbidden. How dare you accuse me of that?" And
Yeah.
that's it. That's the only thing I like. I just hope that's enough to like be like, "Oh, it's something that can happen."
That's your breadcrumb.
Yeah, it's something that
Yeah.
can happen. It's just like, how fucking dare you? And it's like, I would never. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry for assuming that.
Yeah. Just like
No,
when
Nero, no, don't remember. No.
Nero's over there fucking taking notes, scribbling
No.
furiously on a Post-it while making eye contact with you, going, "Yeah, I can't wait to read that part and be like,
I
"Oh."
No.
also had uh I had beta readers on a City Between story that is upcoming, and someone was like a comment that I really appreciated that I got from several beta readers is someone being like, so this character, I was really frustrated with them for being so distant until the reveal that they're up to no good. And it's like, oh, them being distant makes sense now. That's why they weren't getting as friendly with everyone else. It's because they were up to no good. And I was like, yes, that was your breadcrumb, that they're not being as
Yeah.
compassionate and friendly, and they're keeping everyone at arm's length because they're gonna commit some murders later.
Yeah.
Um,
You know what else I really enjoy doing in stories? I
mhm.
enjoy, making you not like someone and then making you like someone, and also in reverse. I enjoy making you like someone and then not
You
like
know who else likes to do that?
what?
George R. R. Martin.
Oh, yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, that's like his thing. That's his favorite thing.
Yeah, it's like the 2 main dudes I'm writing right now, like, literally the first thing you see one of them do is kill someone he 100% did not have to. He just killed them. And the second dude who's, like, a main dude I'm writing right now has a clear rage disorder.
Mhm.
And he's just really shitty and awful to be around. But I'm like, "No, I'm gonna write him this way, and then you know what? I'm gonna make you fucking like him. I'm gonna make you like the murderer.
I'll
I'm gonna
be the
make you like
test of
the"
that.
Yeah.
If
You just
Spike, if you can successfully to get me to like shitty movie boo boy, I'm your test. I'm your final boss. If you can get me to
Man,
like
final boss of fucking shitty, guys.
Yes, if you can get me to like
Yeah.
Shitty Movie Man, you did it.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Because okay, so recently
And I
I was
hate
talking to
every
my buddy
second of
Kevin.
him.
Good. I'm so glad you hate him.
Recently I was talking to a friend of the show, Kevin Wilson, and explaining to him the difference between a blorbo and a meow meow, and which is something that was recently explained to me. The difference between a blorbo and a meow meow, as explained to me, is that meow meows have committed war crimes and blorbos have not. When talking about the type of dude
Meow meows are
characters I like
problematic.
to
Blorbos are whoobies, and meow meows are problematic.
No, because sometimes blorbos have done shitty things, and blorbos can also be problematic, but they're like minorly problematic, whereas meow meows have committed war crimes.
Whoobies can be problematic.
Anyway, so while talking about the types of dudes that I like to read about, we determined that my favorite characters are all on the darker end of Blorbo. So they're Blorbos on their way to becoming Meow Meows. But once they cross the Meow Meow line, I don't like them anymore.
I'm not familiar with this concept of the
It's
blorbo and the
meme
meow meow.
talk, Spike. It's stupid
It's
meme
meme
talk.
nonsense.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like the thing, Amanda, that it's like, and again, I can say this, there's fucking 25 people in here. Shitty
Except
movie
for
man.
Nero. Nero is taking notes,
Yeah.
apparently.
Nero has a fucking recorder out, like the kind some kids would bring to college classrooms to
Little
record the
Sony
professor.
tape
Yeah,
recorders.
he has it like just on his desk, and it's just perched on the edge of his desk recording us all. But yeah, the thing
Whirring.
about Shitty Movie Boy. Here's the thing about Shitty Movie Boy.
So shitty movie boy would be a blorbo.
Okay, I will have to take your word for it. But yeah, Shitty Movie Boy, Amanda. He's so lonely. He's so lonely.
Good.
Amanda. He's so lonely, and
Good.
he doesn't know how to make friends, Amanda. He's so alone, and
You
no
know
one
how
likes
you
him.
learn?
You know why he's into movies, Amanda?
Practice.
You know why he's into movies? Because the people on the screen will hang out with him.
And
Unlike his mom and unlike his dad.
and
he was very lonely in the emergency foster homes. Amanda. He
and
was very, very lonely, and he never made friends there.
and
Yeah, and now he doesn't know how to make friends, Amanda.
and
And he had to learn to defend
none
himself.
of this is making me sad.
He had to learn how to defend himself, Amanda. He had to learn
And
how to defend himself, and that means you have to develop a bit of a you have
nope.
to build some armor, because otherwise the other kids will beat the shit out of you, and you got tired of being beat up, Amanda. So he
I
had to be
didn't
scared.
I didn't
Just
turn
like
into Shitty Movie, bro.
just like prison. And the
Oh,
movies were his only escape, Amanda, and that's
I
why
didn't
he
turn into Shitty Movie, bro.
and that's why he would watch the
Spike.
movies, Amanda.
Spike,
I didn't
speaking
turn
of
into Shitty
problematic
Movie, bro, and here
characters,
we are.
And it helped him
s-
survive. It helped him survive an incredibly terrible childhood, Amanda, being
I didn't
scary
turn
and
into Shitty
awful.
Movie,
Helped him
bro.
survive. And now
Spike
that's
is
the only way
ignoring
he has.
me.
No, I
Yes.
just want to finish my thought, Kel. But see, the thing is, now Amanda, it's like, because he's so good at being scary now, because he was so successful at defending himself, Amanda. Now no one talks to him, and he doesn't know how to get them to talk to him, and that means Amanda, he's never had a girlfriend, Amanda. And he's not an incel about it. He just doesn't understand why that never happened for him, and he's kind of resigned to it. But now he has this little black blob he's talking to, Amanda. And you know what? He decided for the little black blob that the little black blob is a he, because he's not a super enlightened guy, and he's still a very male as default kind of person. But maybe it's not a he, Amanda. Maybe he doesn't think it's a he anymore for much longer.
And my heartstrings have not been tugged.
It's a love story, Amanda. It's a love story.
So Spike,
Yes, Kel.
the other day,
He does
I
not
was-
deserve a weird monster boyfriend and or girlfriend.
He's doing good.
Spike,
Yes, Kel.
Spike.
Yes, Kel.
The other day, I was streaming with Iris and Nero and some other folks, and we were talking about the most cursed thing we had ever drawn.
Uh-huh.
And I then proceeded to describe the Templar fan art I sent you ages and ages
yeah.
ago. where one Elliot is blowing the other.
Yeah, because
And
we do that.
we had to stop in the middle and clarify how
Mhm.
old younger Elliot was, because I
Not
realized I was leaving out key information. It's like, no, 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 this is not
he's
as
not
bad as it sounds now that I've
he's not that old.
Now you made me think of what was the most messed up thing I ever drew. And it was one that where I found it and I couldn't remember the context for it, and now I remember the context for it. But
Mhm.
I drew Idris Elba's head on a fat little fox body.
I would like to see this.
And I remembered why. But I remember staring at it like, I clearly drew this.
I would like to see this
Let
with
me try
zero
to
context.
let me
I would
try
love
to
to see Idris Elba's head on a little tiny fox body. I hope it's all oversized.
It is. Oh, there it is. I just had to type Idris.
I
Okay.
hope he's 2 heads tall like Mario.
He's very little. Okay. Here.
Yes, share your bounty.
I put it in general.
Oh, good. I'm gonna go look. Let me see. Where is it?
That's very good, Amanda.
Where's this thing? Oh, that's adorable. I love that. Look at
Oh,
him. So happy to be here.
He's
so for
he
New
knows
Year's
he's
Eve,
it's because he knows he's still hot. He doesn't have any you know what? I guess fuck it, I'll share it with the class. Let me just
That is a very
the
round
other
box.
yes.
the
There it
uh
is.
I went to a New Year's Eve party with a bunch of that had a lot of older comic artists in it. So I had to explain who Ken Penders was. Um, because the topic turned to people claiming that big movie studios stole their idea, because apparently there's a guy who's claiming that the newest Batman movie stole his Batman script or whatever. And
Yeah.
I was like, it wasn't Ken Penders, was it? It's like, no, it was a different guy. Anyway, who's Ken Penders? And I was like, oh, let me roll out like this saga of information in the Sonic fandom.
Yeah. Yeah, I turn a very jaundiced eye to anyone who's all, they stole my idea. It's like, okay, here's the thing.
Ken
I
Penders thinks that Endgame is based off his Knuckles family storyline or
which
whatever.
is wildly egomaniacal. I think we can all agree.
It's
Yes,
also one of the
yes.
like if you've ever actually read it and you've ever actually delved into it, it is the most convoluted bullshit.
Mhm.
It contradicts itself constantly. It's accidentally what it is.
Yeah.
And it steals from lots of other things.
Yeah, I mean, the whole they stole from me. Here's the thing. There are definitely cases that 100% you can look them up in the courts. But your idea, bless you, whoever you are, is probably not as original as you think it is. Ever since
Yeah.
I started my stupid little ball, like, okay, real talk, I'm gonna fucking go there because who cares? Kel, you were there for this. I had my little tantrum and then I got over it. There was somebody on Twitter who, when I was first starting to post, the comic that I'm going to talk about is called Ordinary. It's the big mean movie guy and little black blob that's his best friend comic we've been discussing. When I posted a link to Ordinary on Twitter going, hey, here's my comic about, the little, ball of Vanta Black ferrofluid that's a fucking movie theater janitor and his best friend who has a super duper rage disorder. Come read it here. And somebody, I don't know what possessed them to fucking quote tweet me, but they quote tweeted me and was all like, sigh, unhappy face. This sounds really familiar. Oh, well. And it's like, I'm not ripping you off. I don't even fucking know you.
Who cares
Where
if
do
it's familiar anyway? You can only make
Yeah.
so many fucking
And it's
ideas.
also
But
like,
the implication was like, I mean, Kel, you saw it. The implication was
Yeah.
like, I was fucking ripping them off. And it's one of those times where I was really grateful I'm 45 and not 22, because 22-year-old me would have rolled up her fucking sleeves and waded in against all sense. I would have been like, first of all, this idea is fucking 15 years old. Suck my ass. You are not. Secondly, it's nothing like your shitty comic. You couldn't fucking pay me to write the comic. That would
Yeah.
have been 22-year-old me. But 45-year-old me is all like, I'm going to assume you're 17 and move on with my
That's
life.
the safest thing.
Yeah. But it's
I
like, no,
mean, even
I
if they're
okay.
also 40, they're still not worth engaging in.
yeah,
Like,
I will say
yeah.
I'm still a little miffed. Not long ago I saw a conversation that implied for my comic series Titty Time, I took the name Titty Time from someone.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Uh, that is a phrase that has been uttered for a very long time.
Mm, yeah, it's
And
bizarre.
two, it was based off the fact that I, a titty haver, would
Mhm,
frequently just refer to any topless time as titty time, and that was the
mhm.
joke. Like, but that is not even unique to me. That is something people been saying. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't even claim ownership. Like, I didn't come up with the phrase. I just put it as
Yeah.
a slapped it on a title, and people liked it, and I was like, oh no, and that's what people know this as. Well, I know how marketing works. I can't change it now.
Yeah, when I see stuff like that, when I see these accusations of, "Oh, they stole my idea." Well, what really? They stole your idea? How'd they steal your idea? Well, you see, I'm making a comic and it's about the janitor on a rocket ship, and now this person is making a comic and it's about a space garbage truck. It's like, okay, from the top, those are two totally different things. Number 2, bitch, I played a video game when I was 12, many video games when I was 12 about a space janitor. That's not original. Yeah, and
mhm.
the concept of a space janitor predates the video games I was playing in the 80s. So we're gonna nip that in the bud right there. And 3, you can't copyright an idea. You can only copyright the
Yeah.
execution.
Oh, there were times when, like, especially in Tumblr days, when I was sharing a lot of early Star Night stuff, I remember someone was like, oh, that's just like the thing I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, and you want to know why? We're both ripping off Sailor Moon. Both of us. We're
Yeah.
both doing the same.
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
yeah, we're going to make similar stuff. You and I are pulling from the same source.
Yeah, and it's
like,
okay to
if
pull from the
someone
same
ever
source.
came up to me to be like, the concept of Misfits of Avalon is very original, and I'm like, and the characters aren't very original. I'm like, yes, because they're what if the cast of Yu Yu Hakusho were girls? That's it. That's the start of it. Like, that's where it came from.
I
Like,
don't think
and then
And
the
characters even
rest
have
is
to be original to
regurgitating
be
King Arthur
good.
lore.
like,
Yeah.
what was really convenient for years and years and years until it literally went bad and now everyone hates it was for my argument, like, it's not about the log line, it's about the execution.
Yep.
Was if
Hmm.
I came up to either of you years and years and years ago and I said, "You've got to read these novels, I'm really enjoying them, they're about this purple-eyed white-haired princess and she's the magical queen of all the dragons, and the magical queen of all the
And
dragons has been
she's been
banished."
banished from her home, and she needs to, like, gather a bigger army so she can take it back as she,
And
like,
but people
grows
are gonna
into
try and
herself.
stop her, and some of the people that stop her have pet dire wolves that only listen to
Oh, you're talking about Game
them.
of Thrones.
Yeah, and it sounds
Mhm.
like the fucking shittiest, weebiest, like, most low quality baby's first fiction ever.
Like, I definitely remember telling someone that Rhaegar, Daenerys's oldest brother who is dead at the beginning of the story,
Mhm.
for context, I was like, "He died because he was too anime for the story." Um
But yeah, it's like
because he's a beautiful Bishonen man with flowing silver hair and purple eyes, and he loves music, and he doesn't like to fight, but he's so good at it. Like,
Well,
yeah,
y'all
and like
remember in an old Dirty Old Ladies episode, I gave each of us a story. Like, this is the pitch. How would you execute this story? We did that before. I think we should do it again in a future. That'd be fun in a future
Mhm.
episode. But
mhm.
like, we all came up with. Even though I said, I think the pitch was, I said, okay, you need. The pitch is, it's a girl who starts working in a hair salon and then starts stealing from the hair salon she works at. That was the pitch.
Hmm.
And we each came up with
I
a
don't
different
think
story.
we I don't think we ever actually came up with a different story. I think we just talked about how we would all have very different
No,
executions
y'all
of
each
that
gave me a
starting thing.
different approach. I went through
I-
each of y'all and y'all told me a
Oh,
different, like, okay, this is what my character would be like, and this would be their motivation for stealing.
Hmm.
you know what we should do is we should switch um comics. Like, if I give you both quick elevator pitch of one of my comics, and then you guys give me elevator pitch for one of your comics, and so we just do that. I think that would be fun.
That might be fun,
But
but Amanda would
like to
hate
describe
everything
what
I
we
gave
would
you.
come up with later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amanda, you
like
just
if
hate everything I gave you, though.
Yeah, but I'd change it.
I don't want you to change it. I
Then
don't
don't
want
give it to
well,
me. Don't give me a baby you
well,
don't want me to change.
like Spike, like if you gave Amanda a misanthrope movie buff befriends a weird alien while they work together, like Amanda would turn that into a very different story than
Yeah,
ordinary.
it'd be much cuter. It would have a lot less profanity.
Um, how much of my comics have you read, Spike?
How many of your comics have someone screaming, "I see you, you fucking cunt, I'll kill you"?
Love Me Nice is my very first comic, and it has a little monkey girl shouting dick and
Yeah,
fuck.
I
No,
suppose there's that. But,
I
there's
make one
something
magical girl comic for you, and you just forget my entire library.
Oh
How
god.
dare
Yeah,
you?
well, you wouldn't
I
want to
make
see
porn.
I would like you know what, I would
That's
genuinely like to see you wrestling, like, not wrestling, like, dealing with his name is Ruben, like the sandwich, so I'm sure, on top of his shitty childhood, that was also really funny, but, I'm sure seeing Ruben, the
You believe
fucking
that, right?
out of control with rage movie buff who has been lonely and isolated and unliked his entire life wrestle with sort of like internalized homophobia that doesn't really qualify as internalized homophobia because
Well,
he
see, you're
uses
getting real
he him
specific.
pronouns.
Like, that's not the pitch I
yeah,
was handed.
I said the elevator pitch. You're getting
Yeah,
into details. So
yeah.
like the
Like,
But this
elevator
is like
pitch
my favorite
is
thing to think about, him trying to figure
that's
out
what
how
I'm
to do
saying.
it.
Like, that's what I'm saying. The general ideas, if you gave me the general idea, he would come out different. He
yeah.
probably, unless you specified main character has to be a dude, he probably wouldn't be a dude.
Oh,
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
like
That's what I'm
because
saying. If you gave me
what I gave was misanthrope movie buff befriends an alien. I didn't say that he was a dude in my elevator pitch. So Amanda, as long as they were a misanthrope, Amanda is staying on the elevator pitch.
no.
Um
That's what I'm
but
saying. No, the point of the exercise is how, like, even if it's the same idea, we all start from different points and we change things, like, almost naturally. Like, I'm like,
yeah.
well, why would he be a dude?
Like whenever I tell people you are the chosen one is about 23 kids that get the same prophecy dream telling them they're the chosen one, um almost immediately everyone assumes they're gonna fight each other.
Fight,
um
fight, fight, fight,
yeah,
fight.
everyone assumes it's gonna be battle royale, and it's like, no, they don't know about the other kids, so they can't fight the other kids because they don't know the other kids are there, like,
Mhm.
but that's not in the elevator pitch.
They think they got the dream and it was just them.
Yes, basically, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's all about how they all react to that news.
Right, right.
My feelings are still
That's
very
the fun
hurt.
part, that's the fun part. Spike, ooh, you're not Spike, you're Amanda, excuse me.
But so giving that elevator pitch, but
I'm just hurting Amanda's feelings over and over tonight. But,
but so yeah, so giving you that elevator pitch of I didn't specify in my elevator pitch that they don't know about each other. So someone who
Mhm,
makes battle royale, you are
mhm,
the chosen one, with my elevator pitch is still staying on theme.
yeah,
Um,
I get you. It's
Also,
like a
Spike, wait a
long one.
second. The pitch I
Yeah.
sent you that you want me to do for you someday is Toxic Witches, and you were like, oh, Amanda wouldn't do blank. And it's like, that's the thing you want
No,
from
I'm
me.
not saying you wouldn't curse, I'm saying that you wouldn't enjoy doing a character like Ruben, because Ruben has a lot of fucking stuff going on. And it's like,
Rachel
he's
from Toxic Witch.
that's the girls in
Dare you?
Toxic Witches.
yeah,
They're just
honestly,
girls.
Rachel is closer. Rachel is closer. I'm not aware if Rachel has any internalized homophobia, but maybe.
No, not that specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like part of what's fun for me about Ruben is just stuff I don't think you'd be interested in, is all.
Well, yeah.
Right, but that's not in the elevator pitch. That's
Yeah, to
in the
be fair, that's
details.
me getting mighty granular, to be fair.
Yeah.
That's our point is
You're
when
right,
you are
shitheads. How
given
dare you?
the elevator pitch,
I love shitheads. How
um,
dare you?
the
I said I write
execution is
shitheads.
Oh, okay. I love shitheads.
Sometimes.
the execution is gonna be different.
I know. I know. I fell off the wagon, and it needs to update again. But Love Me Nice is 50% shitheads. How dare you?
Yeah, I love. Oh my god, I fucking love shitheads so much.
Ugh,
I love shit.
if when Bongo comes back in this stupid comic and you stand him, I'll throw you out the window.
I love
All right.
shitheads. I love them.
So I think this should be our like fun assignment for next week. Us to contemplate what they would do with everyone else's elevator pitches.
Well, the thing is, we've all got multiple stories, though, so we would have to pick one.
No,
Well,
So
yeah, we would have to pick
no,
one.
no. Here's the problem with that.
Mhm.
We are know each other very well, and we are coming at this very familiar with these stories already. So we are already becoming it's like for example, because I'm a contrarian little shit, and I feel like Spike is also a contrarian little shit.
oh, ain't I?
Just because we know each other's stuff, I think we would rewrite things with the knowledge of what the other would do. Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yeah,
I
like
don't
I'm
think it would be as
poking the eye with a
genuine.
stick on purpose.
Yeah, like if I gave Starry Night
I
over
still
to
think it would be fun.
I think
I
it would
still
be
think it
more
would be fun.
I think it'd be more interesting if we got the same prompt that was none of our comics. Just a
Mm.
prompt.
That would sound fun. Like if we went to one of those, not a story generator, but a writing prompt generator. Like there are Twitters that
Yeah.
are nothing but writing prompt
Just
generators.
pick a writing prompt, and you each basically will pick a writing prompt.
And we all have to do the same
You
one.
have to come to me with a mini pitch, not nothing major.
Yeah, because we
must-
all have lives. We all have work.
No, like you can draw a character. You
Mhm.
must come to me to the show with a pitch. I think that'd
Yeah.
be more fun because I really like the demonstration, and I'll try to. Like we can even get more specific, like maybe some specifics about the like I will put this together, and you will all have a week. I will also have a week.
Yeah, maybe we could do that in the future for sure.
Again, but again, it
Okay. I still think that doing each other's comics would be more fun, but okay.
I understand, but like at the same time, I do think Amanda does have a point about the
yeah,
whole
but
like.
like your
Yeah.
the ideas you, for example, the ideas you already have in You're the Chosen One
Mhm.
are kind of in my head already. It's
Yeah.
really
Well,
hard.
I wouldn't use "You Are the Chosen One." I would pick one of the City Between stories probably, or Misfits of Avalon.
Yeah, but I'm
Excuse me.
aware of the rest of the series. And I'm aware of Misfits of Avalon. You know what I'm saying? I think my thoughts are already tainted by the knowledge of the stories you made. Like when you say
Mhm.
Misfits of Avalon, I see Elsie in my head.
Mhm.
Ah.
I have images.
I could use one that hasn't been published yet, so you haven't read
Can't
it,
use
Amanda.
the same characters.
I still think it's a good idea to just do a random prompt. Frankly, one that we don't even scroll through the prompt generators for. Like we just hit a prompt generator, generate 5, and then we choose the best one.
Oh, I'm
How
gonna randomize it.
about? Oh, I was gonna pick a popular comic,
Hmm.
and give that as the prompt.
No, again, I just want something where like we don't have pre-existing ideas. Like I don't want to like do your own version of Superman.
That's true. That sounds really fucking
I
boring.
think it's just more interesting to see like, okay, left to your own devices with this prompt, where do you go with it? I think that's more interesting. As like a demonstration of how like you can have the same pieces and still come up with a
Yeah.
unique story. Well, not even unique, but
Which
a
is like super
story.
important for so many people to understand because I think there's a lot of creators who are not always young, but often young and very prickly. And if they see something that's like tangentially sort of similar to something they're making, they have, I'm not trying to be ageist. I'm really not, because old people can do this shit too. But
And they do.
and they, oh God, don't they? But it's there's sort of this like, you're ripping me off, you're ripping me off, you're ripping me off. And as a person who runs a publishing company who publishes a bunch of shit and has a profile that is higher than profile higher than nothing, this is a thing that is contended with on the rare occasion. And it's Like my most favorite one that I've recounted on this show before, I'm pretty sure, is when somebody sent me a really weird fucking email that accused me of plagiarizing them for the back cover of FTL Y'all, because the back cover of FTL Y'all featured a crowd of people running from right to left looking determined. And that
Oh
was
yeah,
the
I remember
only
this.
uniting concept. I think I shared, like, what they linked to and said, "Stop copying me," and it was I mean, it looked completely fucking different. The characters are
Yep.
completely fucking different. The comics concept was completely fucking different. The only similarity was a bunch of people facing left. And when I got it, I straight up had to take a moment and just be like, "Okay, I'm gonna Google you a little bit. I'm going to see if you're a child. I'm going to see if you are, if I'm talking to a person who is, you know, of an IQ where I could reason with
IQs
them."
aren't real.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, I
A
didn't want to.
mental capacity.
Yeah, I'm not
Are
going to
you able
square
to
up with
receive the
someone who is.
information I'm about to tell you?
Exactly. I'm not going to square up with someone who demonstrates a mental disability in public. That's like, I'm not going to do that. And of course, we all
You
live in a
aren't the
world.
main character of a silent voice.
Exactly. And we live in a world where screenshots exist. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to approach this from a rational place of, legal, legal
And by
import, and
that I
just be like,
mean not respond at all and throw
no,
it
I
in the
have to.
garbage. No, you
I
don't.
responded. I just because I also considered how not responding would play to the kind of person who would send that email in the first place. So I was just like, okay, well, I've never seen your work before, and this is the first I'm hearing of you. And what I did is I linked her to the cover artist of FTL Y'all. I linked them to his DeviantArt. And I was like, this is the exact image that inspired the back cover. As you can see, it predates your image by several years. And this is what was used as the model for FTL Y'all. I'm not changing the cover of the book. It's gone to print. It's in bookstores. I'm not changing it, not just because of cost, but because you have no actual legal ground to demand change for it. If you want to put me in contact with your lawyer, which is what they threatened, I will be more than happy to give you my lawyer's contact information. And I just ended it there. And I never heard from them again, but when I checked in like a couple months later, they had pulled all of their art off the internet and basically disappeared. So I don't think I got through to them, but they stopped emailing me. So I'm going to chalk that up as a win.
Okay.
And that's a thing that I think everyone who has any kind of profile on the internet is going to have to contend with at some point, because there are people out there who are very brittle and sort of, I don't want to say resentful, but suspicious and protective of their babies in a way that might not always mesh with 100% rationality.
Well, it doesn't help. And also, this episode's getting long. I don't mind. I'm just letting y'all know we're at the
Yeah, we can shut it down in like 4
But
minutes.
I think also there's this. I think it's not helped. Like I also don't think it's their fault because of the way that you're introduced to art by people outside of it.
Yes.
Like for example, family members when they learned I was doing art kept being like, "Oh, well, are you getting your stuff copyrighted?"
Hmm.
You know, things like when they were trying to teach me the whole, "Oh, you need to mail your art to yourself so you have a copy of it that's
Oh,
technically dated by a." And it's like,
poor
but
man's
it's
copyright.
but it's like, no, you don't need to do that. Literally, the moment you make it, it's yours. That's how it works.
Yeah,
Legally. Um,
that got changed before you were born.
yeah. But like I get it's like when you're coming into art and you're first getting started and you're first meeting other artists and like you do kind of have an outsider's perspective when it comes like ideas and the stories that are already out there. And like what count, what even derivative means, what does transformative means. Like there is a
Yeah.
point in your growth where you just don't know these things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
The world did
you
not prepare you very adequately. Like yes, you can draw very good and you have a good grasp of narrative, but I'm sorry, your English class did not prepare you to deal with critique. I'm sorry.
Oh boy, yeah, not being able to deal with critique is
That's
definitely
not a
something we
fault
all
of
need
you
to
as an
learn.
artist. It's just you're not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a thing. And the protectiveness over ideas, I think a healthy artist grows out of it because at the end of the day, someone else could write a story about three filthy tramps living under a tree robbing trade wagons. It wouldn't be nothing like my story. Nothing. Even if they were also elves, even if they were also sort of faintly inspired by comics. It would be nothing like mine.
See,
And that's simply
see,
because
mine would be
I'm
actual little Keeblers.
yeah, you know what? That'd be adorable, and I would love to see it. But, like, it would be nothing like mine. You take it in a whole different direction because you're you and I'm me. And
Yeah, like
that's the part that matters.
everyone like who's like, "Oh, do they fight?" When I tell them the elevator pitch for You're the Chosen One, it's like very clearly their brain is going to a different place than mine because
Exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
interested in very specific things. Um and those things are not teenagers fighting each other.
And some people love that and would instantly take it there, but not you.
Yeah.
And that's
Like
fine.
I am of the opinion that when violence breaks out in a story, like very frequently I'm like, "Oh, I'm like disappointed because it didn't go a place that I was thinking about like more interesting." I know I talked about it on an old Dirty Old Ladies, but there is a comic that immediately went from I'm super interested in this premise to oh is there is a comic that's about like something happens that makes all animals gain sentience.
I remember that comic,
um,
yeah.
yeah, you probably remember me telling you about the comic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, that's a really interesting idea. Like, what interesting like societal implications will happen with this?" And the comic immediately turned to, and then all the animals try to kill all the humans. So it's basically a zombie story, but with
That's
animals instead of zombies.
talking animals, yeah.
And I'm like, that's boring.
Yeah, that's
Like,
I remember the one panel because after we talked about it, I went and looked it up, and I think that's why I remember it right now. There was a panel where it's just a little girl and her dog, like a kind of basset
yeah.
hound. It was like a bloodhound. It looked like a bloodhound, and they were just sort of like sitting in the house. And this is like in contrast to all these scenes you're seeing of these animals all over the globe, just mindlessly attacking people with foam flecked at the corners of their mouth and ripping throats out and stuff. Uh,
Mhm.
this panel you're seeing is this little girl who was just talking to her dog as people often do, not expecting an answer. And the dog just looks at the girl and says, "I love you, Janie. I just I just love you." And like I thought that was the cool like why didn't you
Here's
open that?
here's well, no, because here's the thing is like the opening is a series of double page spreads that I
Uh-huh.
thought were really interesting. Because the first double page spread is all the animals before they get magically uplifted.
Uh-huh.
And you have like a polar bear about to eat a seal. You have a dog about to be getting put down. You have a cow about to be slaughtered. You have a hamster who is killing its baby.
Uh-huh.
You have an iguana in a cage while the iguana's owner is like on the computer doing something.
Mhm.
And I forget the others, but those are the five that interested me. And so you have they all get they all get like uplifted is the second uh double page spread. And then the third double page spread is like the first thing the animals do now that they have sentience. So you have the polar bear being like, "Oh god, what have I done about killing the seal?" You
Mhm.
have the hamster continues to eat her baby as her other children are like, "She's a monster, run."
Mhm.
You have the dog about to be put down says to its crying owner, "I'm in a lot of pain, you're doing the right thing." You have the cow being, "Please don't, I want to live." And then this one's my favorite is the iguana turns in its cage says to its owner, "Janie has been cheating on you for years and I will not stay silent anymore."
That's actually really good.
Oh my
um
gosh.
That's really, really
Oh
good.
my god, that's so
My favorite,
good.
the iguana being like, Janie has been cheating on you for years, and I will not stay silent any longer.
That's
Um,
amazing.
I love that. I love that. That's actually really good.
um, but then, like, after that
I
was
just love
done,
like
it
first things first. These are my priorities.
Yeah.
yeah. Cause the iguana is like life isn't threatened like in the other
Yeah.
examples or anything.
It's just sitting
Like
there.
it's just sitting there, it's chilling with its owner. It's like I need to tell you this. Um,
Yeah. Does anyone else has anyone seen this clip that's been going around? It's like a Ring doorbell camera clip of somebody coming up to somebody's house in the middle of the night, and he is a dude who is covered from head to toe, sweatshirt, ball cap, sunglasses, and a handkerchief across his face, and he's wearing the hoodie up, and he's got pants on and everything, and so you can't see anything about him. But he runs up to the Ring doorbell and he looks around and he leans into it and goes, "Hey, yo, dude, your girl's cheating on you. For real. Every time you leave for work, another car comes in. It's like a white Elantra, parks in your spot. Dude goes in through the back because he doesn't want to be on this doorbell. So he's smart, but he ain't that smart because he's here every day. Go to work, come back. You'll catch him. I live in the neighborhood, but not nearby. I'm gonna leave now in this direction, but I don't live in this direction. Peace." And then he just leaves.
yeah.
It was really cool.
And anyway, the lizard being like, Janie
Totally
has been
real.
cheating on you. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I was like, this lizard is looking out for its owner.
Yeah.
But then like it immediately turns into animals trying to kill all the people, and it's like, why would they care? Like,
Well, not even just why would they care, but it's the same thing that has always tripped me up about zombie apocalypse stories. Like, yes, at the advent of the disaster, there would be countless casualties, but human beings got to be the literal fucking rulers of the planet to a fault because they knew how to deal with animals trying to kill them. Like, that's
because
how we got here.
it's also like the tiger in the zoo who's getting fed regularly.
Yeah.
Why does that tiger
Want to kill who's
want to
bringing him
kill the
lunch.
humans that are feeding it on a regular schedule?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's like a
um,
luxurious kind of life. And it's
wh-
again, it's like
why?
just like a zombie apocalypse, if these animals started talking and then started to turn on every human, again, first week, absolute fucking disaster, bloodbath. But after a month, fucking max, everyone would have an AK-47. Everyone would be organized into platoons. Everybody would be shooting to kill on sight, and humans already massively outnumber everything but beetles.
I mean, if I can be
Yeah,
honest, like, I mean, the entire idea of zombies. I mean, I've never been able to find them scary. Again, this is a dumb.
Yeah.
This is dumb. Nobody cares
No,
about
it's
this.
interesting.
It's just they're not scary because they are pure fantasy. Like people are like, oh, it could really happen. It's like it could not.
No.
Like
I fucking can't stand that shit when people are like, "It could really happen." Like, you
could
sound so
not.
fucking stupid when you say that. You
Like,
sound so
oh, but rabies. I'm like, yeah, but you've never seen how animals like act when they've got rabies. They don't like laser target people, attack them. Sometimes they just fucking get lost in the woods and like freak out.
Yeah, rabies and zombies, zombieism, zombie-ish, being zombified are two completely fucking different
Well, and
things.
then people
I kn
point out things
Yeah.
like, the cordyceps and shit that like take over animals' brains. Like, oh, it could be like that. I'm like, yeah, but those things don't like take over
Yeah.
something's brain and make it go. All they really do is like, hey,
Mm.
how about you sit somewhere really obvious? Hey,
Yeah.
how about you just look real delicious for a little? Like, it's not like the
Yeah.
level of, and some people get me real mad because I hate this thing when people talk about, people get their wires real twisted about toxoplasmosis, which is something
Cats,
that
yeah.
cats can have in their urine and can be passed to other animals. And people
Yeah.
interpret it like, oh, the rat is attracted to the cat and just lets the cat eat it. It's like, no, that is not what
No.
happened. The rat kind of doesn't really smell cat pee anymore.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
really basic shit. Like there's some other stuff going on too, but it doesn't like destroy the instincts of the rat. It just makes the rat kind of ignore the signifiers that a cat is in the area.
Yeah, it's like the thing that all right, if we want to go the modern route and not the
Mhm.
magic route, because remember, zombies were originally in their original conception as sort of the servitors of voodoo priests, they were magic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But if we
Yeah.
want to ignore that and go the modern route where everyone has decided it is a virus arguably is alive. We're not going to get into that discussion. And the main drive of the vast majority of life on Earth is to make more of itself, to self replicate, to reproduce. A zombie virus, if you're going to say it's a zombie virus, and yeah, there are like things you can say where it's like, oh, it's made in a lab as a bioweapon, so shut up. But like, if it's going to arise in the environment, it's going to arise in a way where it wants to reproduce. And if it's going to come after people for some fucking reason, it's going to want
Well,
what? That's what viruses do. Viruses reproduce.
but okay, viruses end up in improper hosts all the time and go haywire.
Well, that's what Ebola is, and actually, that's where I was going.
Okay.
Ebola, which makes you bleed from all your orifices and non-orifices and die horribly, is a very bad virus at infecting people specifically. It's great at infecting monkeys and chimps. It sucks at infecting people because when a person gets Ebola, they die super fast in a super obvious way that makes no one want to come fucking near them because they're like, oh my God, it's Ebola. That's why Ebola flares up and burns itself out very quickly in fits and starts. On the contrast, HIV is a much better virus because it infects you and it chills out. It stays there for 10, 15, 20 years. You're walking around, you're giving it to other people. That's what HIV wants. That's what every virus wants. It is a much, air quotes, it doesn't have a brain or anything, but it is a much smarter virus than Ebola is. And the way people most often characterize zombie virus outbreaks is like the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like if you're
Yeah.
gonna pretend if you get a pass if you're going bioweapon, if like that's a whole other mountain you gotta climb because it's like make that make sense because one of the biggest franchises in video games still hasn't made sense how this is a good idea, but whatever. But if it's a naturally occurring thing, like it often seems to be in other environments, it's like how how, how does that help the virus? How is what is happening
Also,
right
there's
now?
shit like, how do they move?
Yeah, if
How
they're
do they
supposedly dead,
move?
if they're supposedly dead, how are they moving?
How do they move? They're not
Because
scary. I don't get
exactly.
it. I'm
Because
like, ugh.
those cordyceps ants, they're not dead. Those snails with worms pulsating in their eyes, they're
Nope.
not dead. They are alive. They are just not in
Also,
full
the
control.
ones with the snails with the things in their eyes, they sometimes survive that.
Oh god, they just get their eyes eaten.
Yes, they just get their eyes eaten, and sometimes their eyes grow back.
You guys want to hear like a sad thing? Like a
No.
sad, yes, you do.
No,
There-
no, no, no. We're approaching
No.
the 2-hour and 40-minute mark. No sad.
I will no, I
You're
can't
sad.
say this. I can't say this one sad thing. What? Yay! Okay, so I follow a Twitter account that I strongly recommend called Fesshole, 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 and it's basically where people send anonymous confessions. And there's this one that has stuck with me for months now, and I'm sure you can go find it if you look. It said, "When I was a very small child, I took a pair of shears and I cut the eyes off of a garden snail. The way it retracted into its shell has haunted me to this day, and I am a middle-aged man who is married with children. My entire life has been me trying to make up for the cruelness I inflicted that one day as a small child." And I just think about that a lot, just like this man did this thing as a stupid fucking baby. He did this thing, and that has, like, changed his entire life. This one sort of, like children have this casual cruelty about them, and he inflicted it on this creature that made it clear what he was doing was horrible to it, and just some people never develop any kind of empathy whatsoever, but that is what sort of not just developed empathy in him, just the recollection of doing that has
Open my
supercharged
own
his
way.
empathy, and it's kind of fascinating to me. I'm done being awful. We can
Okay.
close it out here.
But
I will bring my character
always-
back.
I always thought zombies were boring. Like
I do
that was
too.
I except for an iZombie, because the thing that makes them boring for me is because um they don't think. So there's nothing really like I think interesting there that you can't get from like it feels like just we want to do senseless violence to things that look like
Yeah.
other humans a lot of the time. And the reason why I make the exception for iZombie is because those zombies can still think.
Yeah.
They still need to like eat brains or whatever, but they are all the characters that are zombies are thinking rational beings.
Mhm.
So it becomes more interesting because they have thoughts and
It
feelings
it
and
doesn't help that like sometimes, and I watch mostly I get this from watching shit with my family, so it's sort of like, but
Uh-huh.
I think the also thing like I would watch Walking Dead with my family. I would get so fucking confused because it feels like okay, the zombies don't think, and okay, so they have limitations, and I
Yeah.
always think as long as these people just aren't dipshits, they'll be fine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Yep, yep,
no, they're
yep, yep.
being
but
dipshits.
Yeah, yeah. That
and
is a
and
massive
this
turnoff for
this
me.
is
Yeah.
another thing that I thought I forget if this was someone just brainstorming online or if they were referring to actual media, but someone was like a zombie apocalypse thing where it's revealed that the zombies are only a problem in America because the rest of the world is more of its shit together. Um,
See, I
and
don't believe
when
that's
it
how it
comes
would be at all.
I don't believe it anymore because of how everyone reacted to the pandemic. But
Mhm.
it was kind of like other countries have like social programs and believe in helping people. So like if zombie apocalypse happens worldwide, the other countries get their shit together, and then America, because everyone is um individualist and being a dipshit, zombies just continue on as a problem in the US when
RJ
everyone else has figured it out. Yeah.
RJ Knapp has said in the chat, "The Walking Dead does that thing I hate, just a slight problem compared." Oh, no, The Walking Dead does that thing I hate where it feels like everyone in a post-apocalypse hates each other.
Yep,
To realistic. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Let me
I
let you
hate that
folks in on
shit.
something that is true. When people are in genuine disaster experiences, and this is documented, people write theses on this. They pull together as a group and
Yep.
help one another out, including group members who cannot meaningfully contribute, like babies and the elderly. They are fed
Mhm.
and clothed and kept warm and protected in disaster environments. This fantasy people insist on maintaining that, you know, society is only barely holding together at any one time, and all it would take is a bad Monday and suddenly it's the purge, is a fantasy. That
See,
is not how people are. We got to literally dominate an entire fucking celestial body because we are a cooperative species.
that's why I
Yeah.
initially liked Lost. Because
Mhm.
almost all of those characters, like they do the slow background reveal, and you learn like a lot of those characters were assholes or dipshits, but like while on the island, so many of them just like became not better people, but more they just was like, this is where I am now though, so this is what we do. We
And
cooperate, you
yeah,
know?
it's like I need to if I want to survive, I have to, cooperate with the rest of
Yeah.
the group.
Yeah.
Like,
Like part of the thing about being a human being is if you drop one person in a disaster environment, they have a significantly lower chance of surviving than dropping like 10 people together because
Also,
that's
you
just
have like people
how we
who like
are.
make cults really fast in these
Yeah.
properties a lot. And I'm like, a cult is something you make when you have resources.
Yeah.
A cult is
and
like
like
really hard to like y'all know how hard it is to maintain a cult? You're not gonna
Oh,
just do it because you
yeah,
have the
absolutely.
most
and
guns.
then the yeah, so it's like the thing is it's like in Walking Dead, it's like everyone's an asshole, and then when they meet people that they think are good, those people are then naive and get dicked over by the assholes, so they all end up dying anyway. And
Yeah.
it's this ongoing thing. It's also like the people that buy into this worldview are
Mhm.
also people that are like, well, if we had a good dictator,
Uh-huh. Authoritarians,
it would work
authoritarians.
out.
Fucking
Like,
bootlicking,
so
yeah.
it's very much like,
I'd be okay with a
oh,
king if
so
he
you
was a good king.
every yeah, it's like you think everyone is an asshole, but if you found one good person and put them in charge, that will get everyone to stop being an asshole. It's like
Yeah.
that's
This is like this
yeah.
is contrary to not just like the evidence of modern day, but literally ancient million-year-old evidence. Because let me tell you about one of my favorite fucking fossils. There is an Australopithecine skull that people have found. And this Australopithecine skull was elderly for the time. And we know this because it had no teeth. And not only did it have no teeth, it had had no teeth long enough for all the sockets to heal over and smooth out. When you lose a tooth, it takes at least 2 years for all evidence of that tooth socket to disappear from the structure of your jawbone. So, assuming this person lost all their teeth at once, which is very unlikely, they had at least 2 years with no teeth, period, in a primitive pre-fucking caveman environment. And
Mhm.
keep in mind, there's no Cuisinarts. Any stone tools they have were basic at best. So, what someone
Not even a
had
milk
to be
frother?
not even a milk frother, I'm
Ah!
so sorry. Not a Tesla for miles. Um, what had to be happening is whoever lived with this person had to, and this is the theory because this is where baby food comes from, everyone, prepare to be grossed out. Someone had to be chewing food for this person and either spitting it out into their hand and putting it in their mouth or transferring it with sort of like a kiss style thing. That
Mhm.
is what must have been happening for this person to live long enough without teeth as an Australopithecine. So empathy predates humans. Social support predates humans. Support for the disabled predates humans. And that's how we got to be human. Red in tooth and claw is bullshit. The
Oh,
biggest
yeah.
and
Yeah.
strongest takes the spoils is bullshit. That's not how we became people. We became people by cooperating and supporting one another.
I've said it before, but
And
that's
it's
why the show Naked and Afraid just fucking fascinates me, because you get these dorks who are just like, I'm a peak human. I'm doing what my ancestor did, surviving alone in the
Uh,
woods. I'm like, your ancestor did not survive alone in the woods, you without clothes, you
yeah,
weirdo.
that is no one
Your
fucking did that.
ancestor had a mommy that made them food and an uncle who
Yeah,
sewed them clothes. Shut
yeah.
up.
Your ancestor had an entire society that taught them how to plant and taught them how to hunt and taught them how to make boots and taught them where the honeybee nest was, like
I know
get
that no
off
one in your
get the
genetic
fuck off
line lived alone in the woods because you're here, you weirdo.
Exactly, fucking exactly. It's so like this idea people have of what, caveman air quotes meant and what primitive man meant. And it's like the idea like when you picture Viking, so many people just picture a guy with a helmet with horns. It's like no. Viking isn't that. That's not a Viking. A Viking is a job description. It's not a civilization. And it wasn't just some dudes in boats that showed up to burn down monasteries and steal codexes. Like that was an entire like society that like we have Viking burials and it shows they loved one another and cared for one another, did all kinds of things, and they're
God.
buried with like all kinds of beautiful artifacts. It's like you're so fucking
I
crazy.
will say, if you
Mhm.
play as the Vikings in Crusader Kings, it is very fun and easy to rob France repeatedly. um,
Yeah, yeah. There was a period where Vikings are basically unstoppable because they had developed, these hit and run techniques that no one was prepared for. And they learned very quickly that places like monasteries were easy pickings because the monks would not fight back.
that was when Bones and I were streaming. I was playing Crusader Kings as Vikings. It was like, you want to rob Paris again? And
Like, you know
we
what
need
I
some quick
do?
cash. Let's rob Paris.
Mhm.
God, now I'm just stuck thinking about an episode of fucking Naked and Afraid that pissed me off.
Yeah.
So there's this like chick and this dude, and the dude was kind of chubby, and they were, just out in, I think it was kind of vaguely savannah-y. So the sun was pretty hot. I'm not good at ecological shit, so I don't know where they were. But the sun was pretty hot, and there wasn't a lot of vegetation or shade. And the guy very smartly spent most of the day lounging in the shade doing nothing.
Like
And
you're
the
supposed to
and the
do.
chick would just spend all day overexerting herself saying, I can't believe he's being so lazy, blah, 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 blah. He's just so fucking lazy. It pisses me off. I'm out here doing the work. I'm putting the work in. And I'm sitting like, you are sweating so much. And
Yeah.
and it's like, you've seen a lion before, right? You notice they take naps.
Yeah, they sleep
Like,
so much.
and a very and she was even like calling his weight into question. Oh, he's fat and he's lazy. I'm like, yeah, that fat's gonna help him a lot, lady.
Yeah,
And
I remember this episode.
predictably, she like dehydrated, overexerted herself, had to be like airlifted out, and the guy stayed, and he was just like remained chilling in the shade until like the sun rose or set.
Hmm. Yeah, most time spent by predator species is literally just lying there. If you go to the zoo and you're like, "Oh, the lions are asleep." Yeah, that's what lions do. Lions sleep, wolves sleep, jaguars sleep. These animals all sleep because they conserve energy. It's in their best interest to conserve energy. They're only super active when hunting. And, they can't afford to be out here doing, prancer size through the savannah. They'll fucking die. They need those calories. But if you're in a survival situation, lying there doing shit you really just don't have to do. Once you secure food and water, you chill. You fucking chill if you want to live. And that's what your ancestors like. One of the great ironies of modern age is all our technology that helps us live longer and better and stuff. We work harder than any air quotes primitive ever did. Like people
Mhm.
try and quantify this shit. It's literally impossible. But
Uh,
people say like a person who was a hunter gatherer and a not quite but almost human, maybe 10 hours a week of what you could describe as work.
there was so I read this book that's really good called Debt the First 5,000 Years.
Mhm.
And in it there is a story about um I know that the guy doing most of the talking is a white guy, but I forget what native people he was talking to. So he comes across a native guy on the beach and is like, you shouldn't be lying around on the beach, that's lazy, like you should be doing work, blah blah blah. And the guy's like, why? And it's like, well, because if you get work, then you can, like, if you do all this work, then you'll have enough money to like do this and this. And he's like, and what's the point of getting all that? And he goes, well, then if you get enough money, then you can just lie around on the beach. And
Yeah.
it's like he's already lying around on the beach, like
Yep.
and Debt the First 5,000 Years is a very interesting book because it basically goes over how money is fake,
Yeah.
um and how it is only our modern concept, how a barter economy as we think of it now never actually existed,
Mhm.
um except if it is after the fall of some society that did have money. So like they're just doing that type of barter economy because the Roman Empire fell or whatever, and we don't have Roman coins, but we this meaningless value has been instilled in us. So because he was talking about how a lot of different uh older society economies, you would only pay off a debt completely if you never wanted to talk to that person again,
Hmm.
because
This actually
being in tiny amounts of debt shows that you are a part of the community. So like if I went to Amanda and said, "Can I borrow 2 eggs to make something?" And then um Amanda came to me and said, "Kel, can I borrow a cup of sugar?" Um Obviously like 2 eggs and a cup of sugar are not equal in
Mhm.
value, but because are always slightly in favor of one person or another, we are continuing to have a relationship as we go back and forth, doing favors for one another. And so there is evidence that in some older societies, if after borrowing 2 eggs from Amanda, I then gave her 2 eggs in return, that would be considered rude because it would be saying basically, Amanda, I have returned your 2 eggs, and therefore we do not need to speak to each other ever again. Do not bother me or come talk to me. I'm out.
You know what this is making me think of? It's actually something I stole for Blacata. It's a thing that
Heads
may or
up, I'm
may never.
okay if we keep talking. We're just hitting 3 hours, just so you know.
Yeah, I am cool with ending it after I just relate this one little thing because I just
Yeah.
think it's so fun and fascinating and interesting. A lot of Placata is based in history, and every once in a while I'll hear something interesting and historical that I will steal. I don't know if I'll ever have room for this, but I hope I do. And it was how barter and trade occurred between two groups that either don't like each other or are at active war with each other because they still trade.
Mhm.
What would happen is there'd be this like prearranged generations old place where you go if you are interested in trading, and no talking would occur between these two groups, either because they didn't understand one another's language or they didn't want to talk to each other. And what would happen is someone would show up and they would pile everything they wanted to trade into the middle of this area and then back away where you could still see them, but they were very far away, and like sit around a campfire and wait. And maybe if they were nearby, someone would see the fire from the campfire and they'd come over and they'd see what this person had laid out. And then they would put down next to what the previous group had laid out a bunch of their own crap that they felt would be a fair trade. And then they would leave far enough away so that they couldn't sneak up on you, but they were clearly visible, and they would light their own campfire. And then the first group would see the fire from that campfire and go check on what they left. And if they were satisfied, they would take what the second group left, kick out their campfire, and go home. If they weren't satisfied, they would go back to their campfire and wait. And basically, that was how they like did trade without ever interacting with one another. The second person would just
Yeah.
pile stuff in the middle until the first person thought it was good enough, and then
And
take what they left and leave. And I thought that was really
and,
cool.
and Debt the First 5,000 Years does talk about that system too.
Oh,
Because
cool.
that's again because he's talking about like little tiny pieces of debt show you are an active member of a community, but this is where the I don't want to talk to you again. So
Mhm.
that is an example of
I don't
these
want to
two
talk.
groups do not want to talk to each other after this transaction.
Yeah.
So it has to be even.
Yep.
And
It has to be air quotes
so
worth it. Yeah.
but yeah, so it's like but in the first example, it was treated as rude to pay off your debt because it was basically being like, fuck you, I don't want to talk to you again. Like
Hmm.
um
Yeah.
and so yeah, so
Do
it was
never
really
want to talk to
interesting.
Visa.
Oh.
And so yeah, so I would recommend that you check it out, Spike, the
I have
the
10
first
credits
5,000
on
years.
Audible. I'll probably
I
check
have
it out.
11 credits. They keep reminding me, like, you have so many credits. Will you
Uh,
use them, please? And I'm like,
this
yeah, I guess
this
so.
this same guy wrote a book called Bullshit Jobs, which was also very interesting. And it's about jobs that really only exist to give someone a wage to keep capitalism afloat.
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of talk these days about, really we don't have to work as hard as we do. The only thing demanding we work as hard as we do all the time is capitalism.
Yeah.
And we could all work part-time
Oh,
jobs.
shit.
Everybody here could just work 4 hours a day, 4 days a week, and we would have the exact same kind of level of productivity. And it would probably be better for the planet because people would not be fucking churning out all this garbage nearly as much. We would still be able to satisfy demand. We just wouldn't be insanely overproducing, which is like we are doing right now, where people are making shit constantly, churning it out, and there is no demand for it. A sad secret of the current state of capitalism is that supply and demand now have absolutely fucking nothing to do with one another. Like nothing.
What were you shitting about, Spike? Amanda?
Oh, I just realized I need to be at the leave for the airport in 4 hours.
Oh, okay. We will stop
Oh,
it here. We will
that's
stop it
no. It
here.
was my revelation of I fucked up. Oh no, I have so many things to do.
Amanda, we will let you go. We are so sorry. It's
I
just
did
talking to y'all is
this.
so fun.
This was
Talking to y'all is so
this
fun.
was a group effort. I also did this.
I love y'all. I love talking to y'all. I'm so glad
Yeah.
we do this. But anyway,
Yeah.
I am Spike. You can find me on Twitter at iron_Spike. You can find me on co-host and Pillow Fort as Iron Spike, all one word. You can also find me on Hive at Iron Spike, all one word. I use co-host for my comic Ordinary, which is about a big angry movie buff and his small Vantablack ferrofluid friend. I do a comic called Placata on Pillow Fort. It is about Keebler elves who are murderers. You can read them both, and I'd really appreciate it if you do. I run Iron Circus Comics. You can find us at ironcircus.com. We are about to debut our very first animation in the coming months, Lackadaisy, based on the Eisner nominated comic by Tracy Butler. We're super excited and we hope you like it.
I'm Kel McDonald. You can find all of my stuff at kelmcdonald.com. I am in the process of moving over to different social medias, so they're all listed in my newest newsletter, which is copy pasted on my blog. So you can find all of them there. I stream every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night at twitch.tv/KelMcDonald. You should subscribe and follow me there. I also have a Discord for fans, and we watch werewolf movies on full moons. Tomorrow is a full moon, and we're going to watch Ginger Snaps. If you would like to join me, hit me up on any social media, and I will give you a link to the Discord.
I'm Amanda. AMANDALAFRENAIS.com. I'm almost done with all my like social media transition bullshit, so that'll be something I probably talk in depth about next episode. So